All right, so yeah, officially welcome everyone to the evening session of this day 12, I think we are, the Art and Letting Go course. So we're going to be covering section 4 of chapter 2, I think we're on, of the Course in Miracles text, which is called Healing as Release from Fear. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. Let's get okay. So yeah, can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Done some sort of translation as well. So John, would you like to kick it off for us?
Yeah. Healing as release from fear. Our emphasis is now on healing. Alternatively, our emphasis is now on healing. The miracle is the means. The correction. Oh, hang on. The miracle is the means. The atonement is the principle, and healing is the result. So the correction is the means. The atonement is the principle, and healing is the result.
Yeah. So he's kind of putting them in the correct relationship here. Correction of the mind is a miracle. That's the means of the healing. Atonement is the principle. So the principle of oneness, moving towards oneness, is behind it. And then healing is the result of the corrections and the application of the principle into our life situations. Right?
Yeah. To speak of a miracle of healing is to combine two orders of reality inappropriately. Or to speak of a correction of healing is to combine two orders of reality inappropriately.
Interesting. Okay, so I think he's talking about there. I think it might be helpful if we had a look at the integral model here. So let's just have a look at integral model. Actually, I think it's the other one. Let's find it here. Course manual. It's talking about the different quadrants, really, isn't he? Miracle of healing. He's actually talking about the internal and the external aspects of reality. The opposite of reality he's talking about. Combine them inappropriately. So the correction is happening on the internal level. Correction of the mind. And then healing is the result. So that's the outcome in form that we can observe.
Okay.
So that's the exterior level. And there are different orders of reality, or in Ken Wilber's conception, different quadrants of reality. The inner and the external, the interior and the exterior. So healing is the result, and the correction is the inner shift. But he sometimes talks about the miracle as on this level. He says you perform a miracle. Well, by definition, perform sort of indicates that it's got some form outcome.
Yeah.
So he uses the miracle actually to denote both aspects, the inner internal shift and then also the external result. Sometimes you just have to read it in context and see what he's referring to. But those are the orders of reality he's talking about.
What does he really mean by two orders of reality?
Well, he means that the internal and the external are different orders or different levels of reality. So the interior world, the mind, is the true level. That's, as you'll explain later, that's the only level that's true. And then the on the level of form, the material world, that's illusion.
So that's reality.
That's split in our mind. We have a split in our mind because we've got these two orders of reality going on. We get confused between them.
And the second one is with a small r, reality with a small r.
Yeah. The seeming reality of the external world is reality with a small r. The reality of the inner world, being our true awareness, and only that awareness, is capital R. That's true reality.
Yeah.
And this whole course is about helping us to choose which reality we want.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so number 4.
Healing is not a miracle. Alternatively, healing is not a correction. No, okay, so this is coming back to the outer versus the inner, isn't it? So healing is of the world, whereas correction is of the mind.
Yeah, healing is the outcome.
Yes.
Healing is the outcome. So he says, a miracle of healing. He's saying that's inappropriately combining the two orders of reality. You're saying that they're the same, and they're not. There's a subtle distinction, but it's important to recognize the quadrants that he's talking about, the different orders, because that's not the cause. You see, the healing of the body is never causative. The cause lies in the mind.
Yeah.
The interior level. So interior is causative. That leads to the exterior effect, which will then feed back. There is a relationship between these. That will then feed back into the mind, and you can then learn that was a good thing. Whatever correction you made had a good outcome. So therefore it was correct. Therefore that thinking, that thought system is reinforced. And so the healing of the body then shows you that the correction of the mind, did have an effect. Which is how we learn that, this thought system is true, that it works. Okay, so healing is not a correction because it's an outcome. It's a performance outcome of the correction. It's an effect rather than a cause.
The atonement, or the final, that's the alternative version.
Read the.
Yes, well, the atonement, or the final miracle, is a remedy, and any type of healing is a result. Alternatively, the atonement, the at-one-ment, or the final correction is a remedy, and any type of healing is as a result.
Yeah, of the correction. So he's telling us very clearly what's causative. So in the correction in the mind is the cause of the healing. It's a cause-effect relationship, and they happen in different orders of reality. The one's in the mind, the other one is on the level of form. You could say the healing of the mind.
I think that would be helpful.
Healing of the mind. And sometimes, well, we'll see. I do recall sometimes he does talk about healing as being of the mind. But here he's referring to healing being of the the body, a different order of reality.
Yeah.
That's the way I interpret it anyway. There's an order of reality. I mean, healing of the mind, then it'd be in the same order of reality, but you'd be talking about the cause, which would be the correction, and then the effect, which would be, more wholeness in the mind, more peace of mind. That could then be called healing, but that would be in the same order of reality. That would all be internal. Okay, next one.
The kind of error to which atonement is applied is irrelevant. Alternatively, the kind of error to which at-one-ment is applied is irrelevant. So it's just saying, doesn't, there's no order of miracle, there's no order of difficulty.
In miracles, in corrections, because there's no hierarchy of illusions. There's no difference in the error. The error is the error is the error. It's the same error. It doesn't matter what the kind of error, how big it seems to be. None of that matters.
I think that's okay. Number 7, all healing is essentially the release from fear. Alternatively, all healing is essentially the release from fear.
So that's kind of stating the obvious, but
yeah,
fear is comes from a limited self that fears punishment because it's been it's sinful. That's so fear puts you smack bang in the ego's thought system. In order to fear, I must believe that I'm guilty and sinful, and I really have separated. Fear is then a product of that thought system. So healing would be the release from that. The reinterpretation of the dream would say, no, this is not true. This never really happened. So there's nothing to fear. You're not going to be punished by a vengeful, wrathful God or anyone or anything else because it never really happened.
Number 8, to undertake this, you cannot be fearful yourself. Alternatively, to undertake this, you cannot be fearful yourself. Which makes sense, because if we have fear, well, if we have fear, then we are feeding that into the mix.
Yeah, and fear will block the at-one-ment. Because if you believe in fear, you must believe in guilt and sin. You must believe in a separate identity. You believe in separation, and the at-one-ment is blocked from your awareness through all of that. So you can't heal if you have a high degree of fear. You have to let go of the fear, question the beliefs underlying the fear in order to allow the oneness to return into your mind.
And then number 9, you do not understand healing because of your own fear. And that's okay. Alternatively, you do not understand healing because of your own fear. So once again, stating that our fear gets in the way.
Yeah, it'll block the awareness of oneness out of your mind, and you won't really be able to understand the process because your fear binds you so much into this dream world that there doesn't seem to be any other reality. The idea of healing, if the extremely fearful are not open to the at-one-ment. They're too fearful. The mind is too closed to the idea of oneness. Hi, Elaine.
Hi, hi,
Eileen.
hi, John.
Okay. So what is he saying? Summary, paragraph 1.
Is saying the emphasis now on healing, which is done within the mind and only within the mind, and only when fear is not present.
Okay, great. So do you want to just say that the emphasis is done?
The emphasis is on healing,
Mm-hmm.
which is always a correction in the mind, and never achieved when fear is present.
Okay. Never achieved when fear is present. Okay. And then maybe we'll say, so all healing is essentially the release from fear. Do you want to add anything else in? This is just a executive summary of that paragraph.
I think that gets it, actually.
That kind of gets the essence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The orders of reality, that's, it's an interesting point, but actually what we want to do is get it down to what's really practical. Which is now on my healing, personalized executive summary. So all healing is essentially the release from fear. So my healing is essentially the release from my fear. That makes it very personal, isn't it? So, okay, so that's what he's talking about. All right, so that's paragraph 1 done. Moving on to number 2. Let's ask someone else to read. Elaine, you can read that for us in the original, and then
Yeah.
Actually, there isn't much translation in this one, so I think we can probably just go away to reading the alternative and translating anything that comes up.
A major step in the at-one-ment plan is to undo error at all levels. You want me to keep going?
Yeah, so any thoughts on that? To undo error at all levels. So the mind seemingly has levels. That's part of the domain of consciousness, separation. Error at all levels. So it would be the level of the body, it would be the level of the mind. It would be any other levels in between that you would care to believe in. None of them are ultimately true. Sally was talking about her chakras. So she said, into the third eye, and then into the heart, and then into the hara, the power center. And she did the at-one-ment, applied it to all of those. So that would be, again, that the chakras are representative of levels.
Isn't it a bit confusing though here, John, to say to undo errors at all levels? Because if we undo the error at the level of the mind, then it is automatic. It will be undone at the level of the body.
Yeah, that would follow logically from the mind. But that one must I guess it must come through into even in the illusory so-called order of reality, the external world. the at-one-ment must be manifest.
Okay.
Levels. I think that's what he's saying. So you will see the effects of at-one-ment.
Okay. Okay, I
Having
get it.
having a sick body
Yeah.
wouldn't be then the at-one-ment wouldn't be complete, and ultimately bodies will depart. But the application of at-one-ment on all levels would be, okay, my body's also healed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the sickness just couldn't continue.
Mm.
So it's it's got to run through all of it. I mean, look at if you look at, say, Anita Mojani, she had a profound inner experience, an inner healing of her mind, and went into a near-death experience. And then, as a result of that, the body healed. It corrected itself, and the cancer cleared up in a matter of a few weeks. So that was showing you that that when you go powerfully into the oneness, it will heal at all levels. It must heal the body as well, because the body is just a projection of the mind. The body's under control of the mind, which is comforting. So, okay, you're not going to remain with a sick body if you've really healed your mind. Even in in that instance where her cancer was so-called irreversible, they were like, well, there's no way you can reverse this because you're so far gone. Your organs are shutting down, and yet it did. It corrected the error on the physical level, for even though that error seemed to be uncorrectable. It's a good example of their truth that there's no order of difficulty in miracles. Okay, so sickness
or not right-mindedness is the result of level confusion, because it always entails the belief that what is amiss on one level can adversely affect another.
Maybe we just make that what is wrong.
Yeah.
Perhaps I think that would be clearer than amiss. What is a wrong on one level can adversely affect another. Okay. So what is he saying here?
Well, you're not in your right mind when you're sick.
Yeah.
And then this is the result of your level confusion.
Do you understand what he means by level confusion?
Yeah, it's not coming from the Holy Spirit, it's coming from the ego.
Yeah, let's have a look at the integral model again. So these are different levels of reality. You've got the interior aspect, and then you've got the exterior. So these are the different levels of reality of the mind. So level confusion will be to confuse the levels and go, they're the same. To be correct about it, you say that the true healing. This is what we discussed in paragraph 1. True healing is of the mind. So, and then the body will follow as a result. You don't confuse the levels. Always entails the belief that what is wrong on one level can adversely affect another. Okay. So what is wrong on one level, the body, say you've got problems there, that can adversely affect another, that then affects your mind. So classic thing would be, I'm sick, and now that really affects my mind. I go into a very depressed state.
Yeah.
So you're allowing the body to affect the mind. If you're familiar, John, you'll know Ramana Maharshi. He had cancer, actually. He eventually died of cancer, which is, that's surprising given he was an enlightened person. But it didn't affect him. He didn't allow the cancer to affect his inner state. He didn't confuse the levels, in other words.
Same with Ken Wapnick. He had cancer, didn't he?
Yeah. I don't know how he processed that, but he wouldn't confuse the levels. He would simply go, well, I stay in my right mind, whatever is happening to the body, because they're not the same. This is the true level. This is reality, and this is illusion. So he's asking us to go into the mind and find the healing there. Right, the healing lies in correcting our thoughts, our emotions, our memories, states of mind, perceptions. In the correction of that, and then healing will happen at every level. He's saying atonement, that one must undo error at all levels. So the body must correct as well, but don't confuse the levels. Understand that the true healing is happening on the mind level. Okay, is that clear?
Yes. We have referred to corrections as the means of correcting level confusion. For all mistakes must be corrected at the level on which they occur.
Yeah. So mistake must be corrected. Let's say you've got illness, sickness in the body, that's showing up on this level. You need to apply the correction, to that. So there would be a correction of your perception, a correction in the mind. Remember, correction is always in the mind, but that would correct the bodily condition. Corrections must be corrected at the level on which they occur. So sickness is not right-mindedness. Sickness means that I've really falsely identified myself with this level. My reality has become identified with the body. And the external, which tells me it's a very cunning strategy of the ego, because it's saying I don't have a mind then. I'm identified as a body. I'm not a mind. If I don't have a mind, how can I change my mind? Do you see the ego strategy? So if I just focus on this level and on the level of the body for healing, without a correction in the mind, then that's magic. I'm looking for the correction in the domain of the problem, and I'm not going to find it. That would be magic healing, trying to fix the body without correcting the mind. And that's what the entire allopathic medical system does. Let's focus on the body. Let's try and fix the body without addressing this at all. Except psychiatry, that's an exception. They have a branch dealing with the mind, but again, usually the remedy is a material one. They prescribe drugs rather than really just helping that patient to correct their mind. They do some of that, but not enough in my view. Focus still too much on the material and drugs to try and correct the errors. Okay, so all mistakes must be corrected to the level on which they occur. So that one will correct whatever the error is. You see it on the level of form, your body's sick, the one can heal that. But the recognition is only the mind is capable of error. Okay, you want to carry on? Only the mind is capable of error.
Only the mind is capable of error. The body can act wrongly only when it is responding to misthought.
Now, does that make sense? Misthought.
The body cannot create, and the belief that it can, a fundamental error produces all physical symptoms. Like you were saying there.
So it's misdirected thought. Misthought, maybe we could say, I'm not quite sure. Misthought, misdirected thought, maybe the translation. So your thinking is incorrect. When you're ill, you are believing, you're making a fundamental error. and you're thinking that the body can create. So what we do is we attribute some intelligence to the body. People say, oh, my body's doing this, or my body's telling me this. No, it's your mind that's telling you that. It's all interpreted in mind. The body itself has no intelligence. It's only the mind's interpretation of it. But if we believe that the body can create, and we're believing that the external world is real, that this is our reality, we're identifying ourselves as a body, this produces all physical symptoms. So when we misidentify ourselves, we get physical symptoms, sickness, illness, because, of course, the ego loves that. We misidentified with the body, and then the body gets sick. This is telling us very clearly that we're a body. We are separate from our source, and we are suffering because of it. And the ego loves that story. So it energizes the pain and the separation. So remember, separation is just, sickness is just another device for keeping the separation going. Okay, so number 7, physical illness.
Yeah, physical illness represents a belief in magic. Wow, when you've got a problem, you pop a pill. That will be the magic, or the doctor, or external.
Yeah, so magic is trying to correct the error, which is in the mind, on the level of form. So I have some physical problem. I go to a doctor and they say, well, you need to take a pill, physical symptom, physical remedy, or you need to have an operation, or there's some magic solution, but you're not going to examine your mind and actually change your mind. So the entire allopathic medical system is largely a defense against truth. It's trying to tell you that you're a body, and that your body is independent of the mind. It really doesn't matter what you think. It's like a mechanistic machine, and it can be treated, and this magic medicine can cure you. But we know from our own experience and from many other people's that it doesn't really work too well, especially with the lifestyle type diseases. Things like stress-related diseases, diabetes, heart disease, strokes, cancer. This is because the problem is actually internal in the mind. The problem is a dis-ease in the mind that has caused that, and leads to the disease in the body. So now you're trying to fix it with some physical means, but you're not acknowledging the causation. And so they use drugs a lot, because drugs are the attempt to change the mind without changing the mind. Okay, drugs, they alter your state, mental and emotional state, but you're not actually doing it yourself. It's the chemicals that are now seemingly causing your mind to change. So it's just this external orientation, the flatland world of the ego being perpetuated, and really saying you don't have a mind. You don't have a mind, so you can't change your mind. Therefore, the only option, if you believe you don't have a mind, you've denied this power, then you have to believe in the power of the body and of this medicine to cure the body, because there's no other alternative. So that would be, magic healing, which is what the ego sponsors. It's what the world is set up, and it ultimately doesn't work because it doesn't heal the real problem, which is in the mind. Okay, is that clear?
Yes. Number 8, the whole distortion that made magic rests on the belief that there is a creative ability in matter which the mind cannot control.
Yeah, so he's saying this is an error in your mind. There's some kind of creative ability in matter, form, that the mind cannot control. So somehow the body has its own intelligence, not under the control of the mind, and it's doing its thing. And so people say things like, well, my body's craving this, or my body's telling me this. But actually it's not, it's the mind telling me. Always. The mind is always in control of the body. The body could not exist without the mind. It's not possible to have a body without a mind.
So what about infectious diseases, where you catch something off somebody? Is that?
Oh, it's the same thing. It's happening on the external level, which is illusion, and the causation is really always internal. If you're getting sick, then there's a sickness in the mind. There's a vulnerability in the mind.
Oh, so even the infection is going round, but if you're strong enough, you won't get it.
Yeah, if you don't believe it, then you won't get it. Or when I got COVID, so I don't know, I'm still not entirely sure what it is, but briefly for a few days, felt slightly rough. But I didn't give it reality. I was like, well, this, whatever, I'm not going to focus on this. I just carried on. I carried on running my course and pretty much doing what I was doing. I was going for dog walks every day. The one dog walk, I was going up some steps and I felt a bit like, whoa, okay, but a bit challenging, more so than normal, because I normally don't even bother with things like that. But I didn't energize. I didn't go, oh, I'm sick, I'm gonna go see a doctor, whatever. No, I just was okay, just go in the mind. And really the instruction to my mind was, this doesn't serve me. This doesn't serve me. It's not useful at all. So this just needs to go. And it went in a few days. I took some stuff as well, which was a magic remedy to just facilitate that, the process of clearing it. But primarily it was the mind, but people who are very fearful, they get it, and then they're like a whole story. Oh, I've got COVID. Oh, I'm sick. I might die, and they can linger there for weeks, months, because the mind is susceptible to it. So you invite these things in. Your mind and your body are not disconnected. A weak mind will lead to a weak body and a weak immune system. Because the mind is ultimately in control. And what weakens you is false beliefs. So, the belief in separation is a very weakening, enervating belief. So the more you believe in separation, the more likely you are to get sick. That's just a general connection. You probably see that if you're working with patients, that their mind, you can track it. You can go, okay, they're sick, but I can see why, because the mind is in a disordered state. Okay, so the whole distortion that made magic rests on the belief there's a creative ability in matter which the mind cannot control, which is false, because the mind must be under control. There's no area. This is all projection of the mind. There's no area that the mind cannot control, because it's all a projection. We're only experiencing it because our mind's projecting on the one level and perceiving on another. And it's doing that so well that it creates an illusory reality for us. So it's all mind. We're living in a great thought. One of the early quantum physicists said the universe is more like a great thought than a great machine. We're living in the domain of thought, projected thought that seems to be real, seems to have matter, seems to have some kind of reality, tangible reality. That's the illusion. But it's all thought. So what is energy? Energy is projected thought. That's all it is. So then everything is mind, everything. The quantum field, it's all mind. So therefore it's all under the control of mind. The error that it's not under the control of mind, there's some domain that's not, is false. That's a distortion. Creative ability and matter which the mind cannot control. So there's something else going on. You have a creative ability in matter. The body can get sick. and magic can heal you, and that's somehow independent of the mind, because you've denied that the mind even exists. This is all a distortion. It's false. Okay?
Mhm.
This error.
This error can take two forms. It can be believed that the mind can miscreate in the body, or that the body can miscreate in the mind.
Okay, so two forms. The mind can miscreate. I'm going to put in a colon there, I think, because the mind can miscreate in the body. So what would that mean? The mind miscreating in the body?
Well, that's, the mind dictates the body.
Yeah. So the mind could create negative effects in the body. The mind could make you sick. The
Mhm.
mind could damage you. So that could
Yeah.
be a belief, or that the body can miscreate in the mind. So we believe that our body somehow has some power independent of the mind. And then it can miscreate thoughts and emotions in the mind. So I'm sick. Let's say the second error, I believe I'm sick. Externally, I've got COVID or some condition, and then I have a lot of fear. Oh, am I going to get better? Am I going to get over this? Will I die? That's a miscreation in the mind.
Mm.
The first kind of error is a better kind of error. It's still an error, but at least you're acknowledging you have a mind. So then your mind could change.
Mm.
The first one, body can miscreate in the mind. You're giving the body the power to enslave the mind, which is obviously a distortion. It's an illusion.
Mm.
So then he says the remedy is when it is understood.
When it is understood that the mind, the only level of being, cannot extend beyond itself, either type of confusion need occur.
So the original was creation, the only level of creation. But what he's actually talking about is the mind is the only true level of being. This is where we exist. Maybe actually make that existence. Let me think. The only level, creation is existence. The only level of existence cannot extend beyond itself, neither type of confusion need occur. So what's he saying here? Cannot extend beyond itself. Original was cannot create beyond itself. So it translates create to extend. Neither type of confusion need occur. And so he's asking us to collapse it. The idea that there's an exterior domain, we collapse that. The mind cannot create beyond itself. It cannot extend beyond itself. So the idea of projecting out an external world in a body is false. It cannot really do that. It cannot actually extend beyond itself because it is all it is. That's all there is. So this whole domain is a delusion. And if you accept that only the mind is true, then all these errors are wiped away. There's no body-mind confusion because the body doesn't exist. Because it exists on another order of reality, which isn't true. Other type of confusion need occur. So it's a collapsing of duality would mean the external domains don't exist because they're a projection of the ego, false mind, projected these. So that's a false level. Seems to be a level of reality, but it's not true. The only level of that's true is the mind, and there is no other reality. Do you understand what he's saying? Okay. Can you summarize that for us?
Well, the major at one moment is the problem with sickness and the not right-mindedness and the level confusion.
Okay, so what we're going to do is just grab a couple of that, and we're going to translate it. Determined plan is to undo error at all levels. So, so maybe we personalize it. We say something like, "When I'm sick, I'm not in my right mind, and believing that what is wrong on one level can adversely wrong on the level of form, i.e., the body, can adversely affect my mind." So the real sickness is in the mind. Let's just admit all. There's Kim again. Oh, we've got some South Africans joining us. It's nice.
So does that apply to even like genetic, when somebody's born with Down syndrome or like my friend, her son's got some real problem. What is the view on that one?
The ultimate truth is that it's all illusion, right? So that person is born into the body and in a body that has these so-called genetic problems because there is a problem in the mind, and the mind would have chosen the body like that for a reason. There's nothing happens by accident. People say, well, how's that fair? If you understand that it's always the mind choosing, why did that person incarnate into that body?
Yeah.
Because of a choice on the level of the mind. That's the experience they chose. So, always the mind is in charge, even when it doesn't seem like it is. And genetics don't override that, because genes and bodies and all of that is part of the projection of mind. What are genes? It's all projection of mind. It's all the matrix. Projection of the mind outwards has miscreated all of this. I must realize that the at-one-ment will heal my errors mind and body, something like that. Just the at-one-ment will, accepting the at-one-ment will heal. So we want to make it, remember, we want to make it personal. So it's like, okay, this is actually quite useful. Accepting the at-one-ment will heal all my errors, whether we are on the mind or body level of reality. Yeah. And then there was a bit about two errors. Maybe we should put that in. two types of error. And magic, body can act wrongly, responding to the body can act wrongly. Okay. And the mind is capable of error. It's quite good stuff, this. I think some of this should go in. Body cannot create, belief can. Reduces all physical symptoms. Physical illness represents a belief in magic. Okay, so I'm going to grab that, and then we'll just kind of take it down to, I don't want all of that, it's too much. So mind or body level. Helping me recognize that only the mind is capable of error. And my body can act wrongly only when it's responding to my misdirected thoughts. Physical illness represents a belief in magic. I'm ill. You must believe in magic. And that is that there is a creative ability in matter which my mind cannot control. And I can believe that this error can take two forms. My mind can an error which can take two forms. Which can belief that the mind can miscreate in the body, or the body can miscreate in the mind. And when I understand that's my mind is the only level of existence, cannot extend beyond itself, neither type of God, I need not be confused. Mind is only level of existence. I will not confused by either error. Okay, so read that from the top, see if it makes sense. That's our summary.
When I'm sick, I am not in my right mind, and believing that is wrong on the level of form, i.e., the body can adversely affect my mind. Accepting the at-one-ment will heal all my errors, whether they are on the mind or body level of reality, by helping me recognize that only the mind is capable of error, and my body can act wrongly only when it is responding to my misdirected thoughts. If I am ill, I must believe in magic, which is that there is a creative ability in matter which my mind cannot control, an error which can be the belief that the mind can miscreate in the body, or that the body can miscreate in the mind. But when I understand that the mind is the only level of existence, I will not be confused by either error.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
So quite helpful if you're a healer to understand, this magic, some magic miracle confusion. Understanding these levels of reality and not getting confused by them. Okay, so happy to move on to number 3. Let's see, is there going to be much translation? Probably not too much, so we can read that. Let's ask someone else to read. Susie, if you can read for us, please.
Okay.
3, only the mind can extend.
Only the mind can. Sorry, I've got the book in front of me and I didn't realise I'm reading the alternative. Hold on a minute.
No,
Oops.
okay. No, read
Have I-
the original, because there's a bit of translation. Only the mind can create.
Only the mind can create because spirit has already been created and the body is a learning device for the mind.
Alternatively.
Only the mind can extend because spirit has already been extended. Body is a learning device for the mind.
Okay. Spirit, maybe we need a bit of spirit has already been extended. So remember what our translation for spirit is?
Is it the extension of?
No.
Oh,
Spirit
no.
is related to God, so it's very similar to what the word we use for that.
I thought it was
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, well done, Christine. It's pure formless awareness. So that's all spirit is. It's that pure formless awareness in our minds. Pure formless awareness has already been extended. The original was created, but actually that awareness is extended everywhere. That's reality. It's infinite. It's eternal. It's already been extended. So that's a done deal. That's just the base nature, the ground of being. And only the mind can extend because spirit's already been extended. Pure formless awareness has already been extended and is extended. Pure formless awareness, how about we change instead of has already been, is already extended. And the body is a learning device for the mind.
Now, nobody tells you that, do they?
No, because the illusion the ego sponsors is that you're a body.
Yeah.
That your body is you're identified with that, and that therefore, the things of the body and the desires of the body and the fears of the body and all the systems designed to protect the body, like the medical system and insurance and financial systems and on and on and on it goes. All of that is real. That's what keeps the whole system going. The belief that you're a body. The body is just a learning device for the mind. So it's not you, but through it, you can have certain experiences in this world that can help your mind to learn the truth about itself and remember what it really is. So that's the only proper evaluation of the body, that it's a learning device for the mind. That's the proper perception of the body. It doesn't have true reality, it's not your identity, but you're having an experience in the physical world because you have this learning device called the body that gives you sensory feedback and allows you to walk around and experience different things. And that really the only purpose of all that is that it's helping you to learn, your mind to learn the truth about itself. That's the proper perception of the body. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, learning devices.
Learning devices are not lessons in themselves.
Yeah, learning devices are not lessons in themselves. The purpose is merely, I think you can probably read the alternative for a while. We don't have translations until
Right.
number 7. So
Okay. Learning devices are not lessons in themselves. Their purpose is merely to facilitate learning. The worst a faulty use of a learning device can do is to fail to facilitate learning. It has no power in itself to introduce actual learning errors. The body, if properly understood, shares the invulnerability of the at-one-ment to double-edged application. What does that mean?
Good question. So if you recall, were you in that session where you said that at-one-ment is not prone to two-edged application? In other words, it cannot be used as a mechanism of attack. It's purely defensive. It only protects the truth. So he's saying in that context that the body shares the invulnerability of the at-one-ment to double-edged application. So you can't actually use it if you perceive it correctly. You can't use it to attack and to defend. The ego misuses it and will use the body to attack continuously. But if properly understood, under the guidance of the Holy Spirit and this at-one-ment process, it can't hurt you. It can only help you. The experiences, you interpret all of your experiences as he's suggesting that this is just there to facilitate learning. The worst faulty use of a learning device can do is to fail to facilitate learning. Okay, so you use it falsely, doesn't facilitate learning, but the correction can be, okay, well, I could learn from this, no matter what's going on in the body. So it has no power in itself to introduce actual learning errors. So our misinterpretation of the body experiences that introduce the learning errors. So it's the mind that's the problem. Ego mind interpreting whatever the body is experiencing will cause our problems. If we properly understand it with our right mind, the body shares the invulnerability of that one to double-edged application. So it cannot be used destructively. It can only then be a blessing. Even if you're sick and something is happening in the body, you can still see it correctly. It doesn't actually have the power to hurt you. And then he qualifies that by saying this is not
because the body is a correction, because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation.
So that would be miracle in the original. Not because the body is a miracle.
This is not the
body is a correction. No, that would be inappropriate. A correction is always in the mind, but because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation. So you can't actually, he's getting us to see it differently, isn't he?
Yeah.
The ego will tell you it's absolutely open to misinterpretation. get you to believe in that misinterpretation by focusing on the physical nature of it, that this is your reality. The body can get sick, the body can age, the body can die, and on and on and on, right? But it's actually not inherently open to that if you interpret it correctly. You just see it as facilitating learning for the mind. And, that's its value. The body is merely part of your, we'll carry on.
The body is merely part of your experience in the physical world. Its abilities can be and frequently are overvalued.
That was over-evaluated, I think.
Oh,
Over-evaluated, but I thought
sorry,
overvalued.
I am on my phone at the minute, so
It's okay.
it cuts a bit off, don't it? Oh yes, overvalued.
Yeah, which is, I think, a better word than overvaluated.
Right. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in the world. Those who do so are engaging in a particularly unworthy form of denial. Wow. So if you worship your body.
Yeah, so saying, it's almost impossible to deny its existence in this world, which is true. I mean, how are you walking around in it? It's with you all the time. If you're in a deep meditation or sleep, then you're not aware of it, but most of the time it's a very present reality. So that's a fair comment. Okay, almost impossible, not absolutely impossible, because there are some mystics who really don't, they've denied the body mostly, and but they would come back from a samadhi state and they would have some awareness of the body until they leave. But in the samadhi state, or revelation state, as we would call it, you wouldn't be aware of the body. So it can happen. You can stay in those states sometimes for weeks, days, weeks. Some of these gurus do, but they usually will come back until they finally leave the body. They come back into some body awareness and they'll be walking around, and they might be talking and eating, and so the body's still a vehicle for them while they seem to be here. So why he says almost impossible to deny its existence. And those who do so engage in a particularly unworthy form of denial. So he's saying you don't have to deny the body. You can just perceive it correctly as a vehicle for facilitating your learning. That's a much more helpful way of looking at it.
Yeah, it is.
It's not ultimately real. You don't make a mistake saying it. But it's within the illusory domain, this level of form. It's a vehicle, and it can be used to facilitate your learning. And then, this is this statement. This is the one thing. There's a couple of things in the course, but this is one of them that this has never sat well with me. This particular sentence.
What, number 12?
Yeah. So
the term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. Now, I haven't got a clue what that means, so you're gonna have to.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else got any thoughts on that sentence? John, I think we discussed this last year, if I recall. It's been quite a long time on this particular issue. The term unworthy here, let's unpack it. Term unworthy, it's referring to his previous sentence, the unworthy form of denial, implies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. All right. Now, in my view, that is a straight contradiction of what he said in the previous sections.
All right.
Denial of error. Let's go and have a look, shall we? Healing is released from fear, the altar of God. This is all about denying the error, wasn't it? So let's have a look. Denial of error. separation. This is all about the defense of the at-one-ment and denying the error. Fear did not exist, both separation, fear. Maybe it was the previous one. Denial of error. He says denial of error. Maybe it's the previous one. Let's go number 2. Atonement is defense. I think this is what we want to know. Atonement is defense. So we go back here, and he talks about denying the error. True denial, okay? So have a read of that. True denial is a powerful protective device. You can and should deny any belief that error can hurt you. Okay? So this is what he's saying in section 2 of the same chapter.
Right, yes.
True denial is a powerful protective device. You can and should deny any belief that error can hurt you. This kind of denial, do you want to read it, Susie?
Okay. This kind of denial is not a concealment, but a correction. Your right mind depends on it. Denial of error is a strong defense of truth, but denial of the truth results in miscreation. Projections of the belief in separation. In the service of the right mind, the denial or letting go of error frees the mind and reestablishes the freedom of true awareness. When awareness is really free, it cannot miscreate because it recognizes early truth. It's dumbfounded me now because there's been a few bits there.
So he's talking about denying the error very clearly.
Yeah.
He's saying, look, deny the error, and that's going to protect the truth in your mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Very clear teaching.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now he introduces this, and saying it is not, where are we? We don't want the altar of God. Let's just get rid of that. We want healing as, there we go. Now I'm saying the term unworthy here implies only that it's not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. What would the unmindful be but an error? Yeah. So in my view, that's a direct contradiction of his previous teaching. I can't see any other way of interpreting it. Denying the unmindful. I kind of see what maybe he's trying to go, okay, you don't have to deny the effects of the unmindful, the body. You can kind of accept it as a temporary vehicle. Sort of see that, okay. But that's quite a categoric statement. Only it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. But in that's contradicting what he's saying in the previous that previous section 2 of the same chapter. He's saying you must deny. Denying error, which is the unmindful, because what is unmindful is an error, right? It's now form. Unmindful would be the level of form. And then he says, if one denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power, one is also denying the power itself.
Nobody actually breaks this down, do they, like you, Jono? Because I was going to say that guy that we watch on YouTube that does this, the one that you mentioned that gives the tools and whatever, be a good one to talk about there, because I was going to say, what if to protect the mind was the end of the sentence, and that was just, how do you know that was, how do we know that he didn't make an error himself by putting that in and didn't even realize?
Well, this was Helen Schuckman. Remember, she was the scribe.
Oh yes,
so she would have taken this down, and then they did editing, and they did cut some material out. Some of it was cut out because they didn't think it was appropriate, and it didn't fit. So that they did an editing, but this stayed in. But for me, this has never sat right for me. I mean, the course is pretty clear. It doesn't contradict itself, except I think this in this particular sentence. So one, I'm like, oh, just that never sat right with me, because what he's saying in the previous section about denial would seem to contradict this. You know? It's not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful, but he's told us that it is. In the previous section, you must deny the error. Well, the unmindful would be an error, wouldn't it? How else would you perceive it? One denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power. One is also denying the power itself. Whoa, okay, hang on. That's just put a whole contradiction in the works, and it's confusing, I would think. What do you think?
Yeah,
it doesn't sit with me. These two sentences.
yeah. But I find some of it can be quite confusing, but this is the first time I'm really looking at it. So for you to be looking at it like you have done, and it's still like confusing.
Well, it's a contradiction.
Yeah.
How else do you interpret that? It's not necessary. So read these two statements. The term unworthy here implies only that it's not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. Okay, that's one statement. And we tab across here, and he's saying in another, the same course, in the same chapter, true denial is a powerful protective device. You can and should deny any belief that error can hurt you. In other words, you should deny unmindful, because the error must be unmindful. This kind of denial is not a concealment, but a correction. Your right mind depends on it. And now he's saying, no, actually, it doesn't. This is unworthy. And if one denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power, one is also denying the power itself. Whoa, okay. So what, we should accept the power of the mind to miscreate in order to accept the mind's power? Does that make sense to you?
No.
The mind's power is beyond illusion. The mind's power is pure formless awareness. It's the true awareness.
Yeah.
That is not, it has nothing to do with the error. The miscreation of the mind, the ego, doesn't really exist. So you must deny the unfortunate aspect of this mind's power, because that's your freedom. If you acknowledge that the mind has an unfortunate aspect, then you acknowledge the ego. You're in duality. So these two sentences have never sat well with me, and we have to either cut them out or reinterpret them, in my view, to make this course consistent. Because one contradiction, as he so rightly points out, one contradiction to the truth means the truth is contradicted entirely.
Yeah, but if you miss it out, are you going against the truth?
Well, I think this should have been edited out. They edited out some of the stuff that they said didn't fit.
Would you do that for your own version then? Just to edit it out?
Well, this is my own version. I'm not going to edit out.
That's it.
The original is the original.
Yeah.
But out of my version, I'll say, well, we're trying to make this a better version, more consistent. So that does not sit well with me. I can't make sense of that. That doesn't.
Yeah.
There's no way of fudging it, because he's saying denying the unmindful. Well, the unmindful would clearly be if he's saying the mind is the only level of reality. He said that, right? Where did he say that? In the previous one. Only the mind can create. Spirit has already been. So only the mind is capable of error. Only the mind is real. It's understood that the mind, the only level of creation or existence, right? He's saying only the mind is real. So the unmindful would have to be unreal, right? Clearly, he's defined this. So then we must deny the unmindful in order to protect the true power of our mind. That would be logically consistent with the rest of the teaching. And this needs to be reinterpreted or discarded, in my view. Is everyone with me?
Have you asked David of Meister what he thought of that section?
That's what I was saying earlier.
I haven't, actually, no, I haven't.
It would be interesting to ask him, actually.
Never had that discussion, so it would be interesting. But you know, he would probably, if he's honest, you'd have to apply the same thing. I mean, he has the same logical mind as we do. Like, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Does the logic
but
make sense? to you?
yeah, to hear it's not this doesn't make sense at all. This whole sentence, actually, I cannot get it. I cannot get my mind around it, literally.
No, because it's a contradiction of what
Yeah.
he's said previously. So then, if you've got a clear contradiction, one must be true and
Yeah.
one must not be. You've got to
Exactly.
decide. If
Yeah.
this is true, the term unworthy here implies, in fact, this denies the entire course's teaching.
Yeah.
Because what he's saying is you must deny the unmindful, you must deny the error. That is what forgiveness is about. Forgiveness will
Yeah, but
letting
if
go
you're
of
if
the
you're just
belief in
doing
the error.
your if you're just doing your interpretation, it's good because you're going to have the original, and then you're going to
Mm.
you're
Yeah,
going to omit that for your own, for all of us, because we're agreeing with you here.
yeah, it's what works for us. Okay, you know, the course purists might say, well, it's in there originally, but they, you know, they edited it, and maybe they should have taken that out, in my view, because it. I mean, I remember David Hoffmeister talking about one, you know, one line that was in the course, the original Ur text, something like God created time as a learning device for his children, or something like that. And he said, oh, no, that had to go out because God did not create time. God, pure formless awareness, does not miscreate. Then you're making God responsible for the whole illusion. God did not create time to teach his children lessons. That's of the ego's making. The Holy Spirit reinterprets time to free you from it. That's, you know, that's what's happening. So there were things that were cut out, and I think this should have been one of them, because it just it's not gelling with the rest of the teaching. And I think it's the only part of the course, or maybe one or two others, but I think I was happy to reinterpret those things about the universe. But there's a direct contradiction of what he's just taught us in the previous section of the same chapter. So how do you make sense of the direct contradiction? When he said it's not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. Okay, then he's saying you can and should deny any belief that error can hurt you. In other words, you should deny the unmindful. You can and should. And this is a powerful protective mass on and on. You know, he's telling us this is the way. We must deny error. But now he's saying the unmindful, which would be an error, we shouldn't deny. No, it doesn't sit with me, because then the whole teaching is like, okay, well, what does he mean? So we either take that out entirely, which is the easiest option, just delete, or we reinterpret and we go, okay, so what could we say instead? The term unworthy here implies only, I would be happy to say something like, it's not necessary. It is not necessary to deny the projections of the ego mind, like the body, something like that.
How about to deny the projections of the unmindful?
Yeah, we want to make it very clear and not confusing. Not necessary to completely. Let's just see if we can sculpt something here. It's not necessary to completely deny the projections of the ego mind, like the body, while you are still living in the body.
But when the unmindful, was that does that represent the ego projections, the unmindful?
Yeah, and the unmindful is the domain of not mind. It's the form, the level of form, the exterior world. It's unmindful.
Yes, so it's the ego.
We've gone out of our mind. Yeah. So my reinterpretation of that sentence would be, the term unworthy here implies only that it's not necessary to completely deny the projections of the ego mind, like the body, while you're still living in the body. But you only need, we'll put this in as another, you only need to reinterpret these projections with the help of your internal, maybe just with the help of the remembrance. Perfect. Love, so they cannot hurt you. Okay? Does that make more sense?
Mm.
Because then that's consistent. He's saying, okay, not necessary to, I think this is kind of what he's hinting at in his version. It's not necessary to completely deny the projections of the ego mind, like the body, while you're still living in the body. You don't have to go there. Try and, okay, I've got to completely deny the body. You only need to reinterpret these projections with the help of the remembrance of perfect love, so they cannot hurt you.
Yeah.
Now that's consistent with the rest of the teaching. It's consistent with what he said here, that we just need to reinterpret the body. It's a device for learning, etc., etc. Much clearer. Would you agree?
Yes, and it would be worth speaking to that, David. And that's whose name I forgot.
David
When I was trying to say to you, when I was saying to you earlier, because he's quite good on it all, isn't he? And he's I'm sure if you had a conversation with him and just say to him, have you ever come across this? Or
yeah, I'm sure he has. Yeah,
yes,
okay,
I bet he has.
How do you interpret that?
But it'd be
how do
good
you
to have
interpret
that.
that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Be good for you though, Jono.
Well, maybe I'll reach out to him. I'll email him and say, what does he think? Term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary. What have we changed? Let's just see. Implies only that it is not necessary to, and then we changed it from there to completely deny the projections of the ego mind, like the body, while you're still living in the body. You're still living in a body. You only need to reinterpret these projections with the help of the remembrance of perfect love, so they cannot hurt you. I think that's sits much better with me than this version.
Yeah.
Okay, so happy with that.
Yep.
Sorted. There might be people who go, "Oh, you changed the meaning." Well, yeah, I did in this case because I didn't think the meaning was correct. Generally, in a translation, you don't change the meaning, but
and we are agreeing with you there, Jono. So it's not as if.
So if we're all in agreement, it's in the end, it's what works for us. Does it work? Right. So, can you summarize? Number 3?
Really, after all that, Jono? I'm sure you can do a good job.
Yeah, but
I know what you mean, but it always gets to me a bit. Only the mind can extend because you're from, and when I've been on it all day, I'm not kidding you. It's not brain freeze, but I just feel like, whoa, I've just took in so much.
Yeah.
Okay, only the mind can extend because. Yeah, it's obviously talking more about the body being a learning device here for the mind.
Yeah, so I think the summary would be the body is a learning device for the mind.
Yes.
That's a key point. And their purpose is merely to facilitate learning.
Yes.
Something like that, and then there's the whole. We'll come back and get that. So.
The sentence that
personalize it,
starts.
say my body is a learning device for my mind. Learning devices, not lessons themselves. So we'll just cut that out, and its purpose is merely to facilitate my learning. The worst faulty use of a learning device can be used to fail to facilitate learning. So the worst my faulty use of this learning device can do is to fail to facilitate my learning. So it's not a big deal. Okay, failed to facilitate my learning, but I can correct my mind. And
where was that sentence? They. It started with they. I thought that was a good one to add into it.
Which one?
Let me have a look. Moved it up. I was going to put in like, this is not because the body is a correction, but because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation.
Yeah. So
because that's number 7 is actually talking about number 6 and number.
Yeah, this is grand ones. Fail to facilitate my learning. Fail to facilitate my learning because it's not inherently open to misinterpretation. Okay. So
body is merely part of.
So then we'll just include our okay. So it's not inherently open to misinterpretation. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in this world. So I do not need to completely deny the body. You don't need to try to completely deny the body while I'm still living in the body. I only need to reinterpret.
Yeah.
Reinterpret it as a learning device. So help in the moments of perfect love. We need that. So it cannot hurt me. Need to reinterpret it as a learning device for my mind, so it cannot hurt me. Okay, then you want to read that from the top. See if we're happy with our little summary.
My body is a learning device for my mind, and its purpose. Its purpose is merely to facilitate my learning. The worst my faulty use of this learning device can do is to fail to facilitate my learning because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in this world, and so I do not need to try to completely deny the body while I am still living in a body, but only need to interpret it as a learning device for my soul. It cannot hurt me. For what?
I only need to reinterpret it as a learning device for my mind, for my mind.
Oh, for my mind, so it
Wow.
cannot hurt me.
I seem to be still living in the body. Okay. So I think that's clear, right? So it's a reinterpretation of the body that's required. You don't need to deny it. You just need to accept that while you're here, yeah, the body's going to, be around. You wouldn't have a physical, life here if you didn't have a body. So you just reinterpret it, saying, all right, it's useful. It's facilitating my learning. It's giving me experiences in this world that are helpful if I interpret them that way. If I can see it's all for my learning to ultimately escape the body, then it's useful. And then I don't need to try and deny it, do the almost impossible and try and deny its existence in the physical world. Try denying the body, you're going to struggle, won't you? You still got to live in it. It's got to, have food and, clothes and shelter and all these kinds of things. And your consciousness goes around in it.
Yeah.
Where would you be? So very difficult to deny. He says virtually impossible. You could, if you go into like samadhi type states and you're going into the pure formless awareness consistently, you're checking out of the body and the body doesn't really have any reality for you. But that's a very high state of mind, and that would require lots of meditation. So he's saying you don't have to do that, you just have to reinterpret it. And then it can't hurt you. Even if the body was sick, it can't really hurt you.
No.
I don't identify it. You go, okay, well, this thing's sick, but it's not really me. And I'm not attached to it. It's not causing me mental and emotional distress. Because the pain, the suffering we experience is mental and emotional, isn't it? It's our interpretation of what the body is doing that brings us distress. So the highest level I took by Ramana, who was an enlightened guru in India. He got cancer eventually, but it didn't bother him. He was in his state of moksha, of bliss, and his body was dying, but his mind was unaffected. Because he was disconnected from the body. He didn't believe in its reality. And so he let it be. It's like, well, this is my way out. Why would I try and heal the body if this is my escape from the body? And actually, that's actually where my mind naturally doesn't want to be in a body. So why would I try and avoid that? This insane system we have of trying to keep bodies alive. Go through think of the way we treat cancer. Just crazy. So much pain involved in trying to so-called save lives. Put people through hell, and then they usually die anyway, having been through this horrible experience in their last few months or years of life. And you wonder, if the body's going to die anyway, why? Does that make any sense? You're trying to prolong life because you see it's part of the paradigm that this is life, that without a body you don't have life, and then so we have to preserve life and keep people here. But if this is just a delusion of life, it's a false life, then where's the fear?
You'd think some doctors would create a holistic hospital, wouldn't you? Really, unless there are some. There's got to be some. Not everybody can.
There are some doctors who think alternatively, and they do alternative treatments, and
you need hospitals, don't you? You need it to be a big, because it can change, can't it? Everything can change, but like you said, people have got to change their mind, not.
It's a thought system. It's a paradigm.
Yes, yeah.
We've got to protect the body, and we've got to keep the body alive at all costs. Well, that's just denying. That's a denial of the other reality that's waiting for those bodies. If someone is sick and in pain and the body is really finished, why would you want to keep it alive? Doesn't make any sense, does it? Make that person suffer. The mind is suffering in the body. You would want to release them, give them the freedom of release. No body means no pain. They wouldn't suffer anymore.
Mm.
So there's some doctors who've done euthanasia and stuff because they understand this, but that is still a crime. That's murder. You're put in jail for that. It's insane. You're actually just relieving that, the person's suffering, provided it's consensual. They say yes. Really, I don't want to be here anymore. Well, that's a choice every mind can make. You don't have to continue living. It's like, in the scientific materialist paradigms. No, the body's all there is. So we got to keep these people alive, even if they're vegetables or they're, suffering. We got to keep them alive. For what purpose? For what reason? Doesn't make any sense. When they could be, free of all of that pain in an instant. Just no body. Their body would be released from. Their mind would be released from all of that pain, and they would find, temporary peace. They might need to come back into a body. They're not enlightened. They, come back, but at least that the pain and suffering of their physical condition is over. So we see these faulty belief systems showing up all over in this so-called reality. Where are we? Let's just get back here. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4. All material means. So let's ask someone else to read. Christine, can you read for us, kindly?
Okay, but I won't contribute like Susie because I'm not capable.
Oh, don't say that. Don't say
I
that.
have to do it all.
Yeah. Just go with it and see what happens. I'm sure you'll be fine.
All material means all material means that you accept as remedies for bodily ills are restatements of magic principles.
Yeah. So you understand what he means there. All material means. The means are the
Medicine.
the means to an end. So something that's going to bring about healing. Except as remedies for bodily ills are restatements of magic principles. That's a pretty categoric statement. All material means. So that's the medicines, the pills, the vaccines, all of it are just restatements of magic principles. You're saying somehow there's a creative ability in matter that could heal you. That's now outside of the mind. This thing, whatever it is, can actually heal the body. And you're just confirming the magic principles which underlie the whole dream. Okay. So that's going to be, does that need translation? I don't think so. Except as remedies for bodily ills or restatements of magic principles. Okay, the next one, this is the first step.
This is the first step in believing that the body makes its own illness. It is a second misstep to attempt to heal it through non-creative agents. It does not follow, however, that the use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil.
Okay, so pause there. Non-creative agents. What does he mean by that? He means magic, doesn't it? Non-creative. Creation is referring to the level of truth, spirit, source. So a non-creative agent would be some material means. Some medicine, something on the level of form that you're giving healing belief. To heal it through, I think maybe magical might be better. Magical agents. Body makes second to attempt to heal it through magical agents or means. Uncreative would be material through magical or material. Magical and material means. So material would be tangible. The material means that he referred to there. Okay, so is that clear what he's saying?
Yes.
Okay, then number 4, does not follow
That the use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil.
Yeah. Use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil statement. Okay, so use of such, I'm going to take that, such means, let's keep it as agents. Such agents for corrective purposes is evil. Okay, so he's giving us a bit of slack here. He's saying, okay, well, he understands there are these agents that you've invented, whatever the means are, medicines, pills, and so on. So then he says, well, this is where, this could be helpful. So number 5, sometimes
Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the at-one-ment.
okay, so we can change the render to make, maybe, to make a person temporarily inaccessible to the at-one-ment, means unable to let go and access the power of, how about that?
Perfect.
They can't access this power because they can't let go. If you've ever dealt with people who are quite sickly, and they've been that way for a while, then you'll know that's often it's just they're not open to the correction on the mind level, are they? Can't just say let it go, because they believe so much in the illness and the identity that it's given them. They might have been ill, it's been a long-standing illness. They've got an identification with it. So just tell them to let it go and accept the power of that at-one-ment, they're not open to it. In this case, saying it may be wise, carry on.
In this case, it may be wise to utilize a compromise approach to mind and body, in which something from the outside is temporarily given healing belief. What does that mean?
Okay, what do you think? Compromise approach to mind and body, something from the outside. Okay, so some material means, some material agent. Let's use the same language. Outside the mind, material agent outside the mind is temporarily given healing belief. So the person can't just let it go and accept the at-one-ment. So you give them some magic, whatever that may be. You say, okay. I mean, we know in the they've done studies with the placebo effect with pills. If someone really believes it, then it works for them because they really believed it. And the moment they don't believe in it, the placebo will cease to be effective. It's well known, and they've done studies on this in clinical trials and clinical studies on the placebo effect. You give someone a pill that's got nothing in it, and another pill that has a chemical, an agent in it, and actually sometimes the people on with the placebo do better because they believe in it. And if they stop believing in it, there's one case I remember reading, the guy had some rare disease and they gave him a placebo. Said, no, we've invented this pill and it's really good. The trials are very promising, and this looks like it's going to work. And the guy got better. And then he read in the newspaper, that the trial failed and the drug proved to be a waste, and then he got sick again because he didn't believe it anymore. So this is how the mind works, it's the belief. But he's saying if it helps people and they can believe in the pill or whatever the magic is, then that can be a compromise approach to mind and body. Do you see that?
Mm.
You're not just saying let it go and just heal with your mind, because the person can't do that. So then you give them something else to believe in, which could help them temporarily heal the body and might then allow them to get out of the sickly state, heal their mind a little bit and be more open to the at-one-ment. And then he goes on to qualify and says, this is, we'll carry on, this is because
the last thing that can help the non-right-minded or the six is an increase in fear.
So I think we could just maybe make that those non-right-minded is connected to those who not in their right mind. It's better than the non-right-minded, I think.
Mm.
Those who are not in their right mind, who are the sick, all right? If you're not in your right mind, you're sick, mentally or physically or both. So here's an increase in fear. So if you increase someone's fear, you bring this remedy of the at-one-ment and you say, well, all you need to do is let it go and you can be healed. This could create a lot of fear for them because their ego would be fearful. The ego would react in a fearful way. So they're already in a fear-weakened state. Can you carry on?
They're already in a fear-weakened state. If they are prematurely exposed to a correction, they may be precipitated into panic. This is likely to occur when upside-down perception has induced the belief that corrections are frightening.
Prematurely exposed to a correction, they may be precipitated into panic. So if you really fixed in your belief that you're a body and your illness is real, and suddenly you have a miracle, the disturbance in the mind can be significant. Suddenly, the person's reality has been really challenged, questioned, and overturned. And this is likely to occur when upside-down perception has induced the belief that corrections are frightening. So we believe that corrections, some are frightening. We'd be better off in our existing state, the known world, with the ego in charge and the illness. You're talking about people, who, are elderly and they're frail and they're ill and, they're in and out of hospital. And that's safer for them than just being free and happy and healthy.
Yeah.
Because they've got so used to their identity of that sickly person and always needing other people's care and sympathy, that without that, who would they be? And so then it's scary. To let go of the illness means they have to let go of the self-concept And that's scary for them. That will precipitate more fear.
I know 3 people who are in that position at the moment. They're in and out of hospital, about to die, and to offer them something like this would be very scary.
Yeah, it would probably be too much for them. They wouldn't be able to accept, okay, I'm not a body, I'm not really sick, I can't really die. Even though that's their liberation, their fear would prevent them from that. So then he's saying compromise approach would be use a material agent to try and help the person. You don't want them to suffer unduly, and perhaps that can open them up. Once let's say the material agent works temporarily, that could open them up to, when their fear is reduced, to maybe a correction, a miracle. So he's giving us a bit of slack here. There's not many errors he does, but he's saying, okay, well, maybe sometimes these material means are okay, but don't misinterpret it. I mean, and we talked about at lunchtime, the COVID thing, and this guy called Robert Perry, he was saying, oh well, you have to take your vaccine because of course, in the notes of the to the text in the early days, he told Bill via he said listen to someone from the flu board, he'll answer your question about whether you're going to take a flu vaccine. And the guy said yes, take it. So then he's saying, well, Jesus is saying you should take it. And he uses a justification for this, that this particular paragraph, and saying, it may be wise to utilize a compromise approach to mind and body. So material agent outside the mind is temporarily given healing belief. But that's a misinterpretation, because actually this is talking about an instance where someone is already sick and they are quite, obviously attached to their sickness, and there's a lot of resistance. Not talking about some preventive measure like a vaccine. It's a different situation. So you can't really apply it in that case to something like vaccination, because the person's not already sick. So, I'm just giving an example of how these things can be misinterpreted and misused he was an experienced course teacher, but he had an agenda. He wanted to punt the vaccine. So then he found a way to justify it in course terms. Okay, so that's number 4 done. Can you give us a summary, Christine? Was that asking too much?
Oh, it's asking too much.
Okay, so maybe you can help me create one. What we do is just take the key bits of this that we take, and then we just edit it down. So we just take the key parts of it to create a little summary that then makes it easier. So all material means that I accept remedies for my bodily ills, restatements of magic principles. Second misstep to attempt to heal it through material agents. Okay, so we'll just take out so therefore maybe we can just shorten this actually. To attempt, if I attempt to heal my body through material agents, I am believing in magic. Okay. However, sometimes illness sometimes an illness may sufficiently strong hold over the mind, make a person temporarily unable to go and access the power of the atonement, and then in which case a compromised approach to mind and body may be useful. Any attempt to heal the body through material agents reinforces the power of magic. However, sometimes an illness may have a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to make a person temporarily unable to let go and access the power of the one-ment. Okay, it's a compromised approach to mind and body, which material agent outside the mind is temporarily given healing belief. The material agent outside so maybe one case. Maybe wise to have a compromised approach. To take a compromised approach to mind and body. Material agents temporarily given healing belief. Okay, and that's probably enough for the. Okay, do you want to read that, Christine?
Any attempt to heal the body through material agents reinforces the power of magic. However, sometimes an illness may have a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to make a person temporarily unable to let go and access the power of the atonement, in which case it may be wise to take a compromised approach to mind and body, in which a material agent is temporarily given healing belief.
Well, so just saying you can, you can actually do this. Summary. Okay, and then so that's the summary. Key point of that is one-ment is the only defense. One-ment was built into the space-time belief. So last one.
I'm Tana, sorry.
Hi, Kim, how are you?
Hi, sorry. Sorry, I joined late and knew I had lots of trouble joining in. Hi.
I saw, yeah.
Yes. Just on this teaching around using magical means per se, especially around, and I'm thinking just practically, where we're at, I'm speaking for myself. I mean, very much like if there's pain, well, I will put myself into that category about the fear. Or I mean, yeah, I mean, I think you have to have a very, very strong mind to get past that. Perhaps for other kind of, I don't know, we can talk about more chronic disease, you know, that people can help to reverse that, you know, ones which can, like I said, type 2 diabetes, you know, with being healthy and having a good diet. But yeah, I'm just like thinking about these practically, and where we're at the moment. Okay, certainly for me, I think I'd need to go further down in the journey. Yes, it's in the mind, but yeah, it's just a comment from me.
Well, there's still a belief, you know, in these magical means. And he's saying, you know, if you truly knew the power within you, you know, the power of spirit is beyond all this. It's the power of life itself. So it can do things like regenerate, you know, a body that's about to die. Take Anita Mojani as an extreme example, but she had, you know, tumors the size of golf balls all over her body. Her organs are shutting down. The doctors are like, right, you know, there's nothing we can do. This is, you know, there's no way back from this. You know, say your goodbyes, as they say to the family. And she goes in, she has a near-death experience which heals her mind, and her body regenerates. And within 5 weeks, she's cancer-free. All the tumors have gone, which they couldn't explain. It was totally outside of their paradigm of reality. They, you know, her oncologist said, well, you know, actually sometimes chemo can help in advanced cases. Yeah, right. When organs are shut down and you've given her hours to live, do you think that was chemo? I mean, it's very obviously it wasn't. You know, she'd had chemo and it hadn't worked. You know, it was the near-death experience that did it. The healing of her mind. It was a complete recalibration of her mind, which then you know, profoundly affected the body, and the body just healed. And she was told, you know, when she chose to come back, it was like, yeah, your body will be healed, and that's why she agreed to come back. She said, I don't, you know, it's no point. I can't live anymore in the sick body. It's got to heal if I'm going to go back. So okay, you know, yes, go back. The body will be healed. It's done. And you know, that's been mirrored. There's other near-death experience. Did you watch that movie Miracles from Heaven? It already recommended. I put it up about a month ago. Yeah, it was also very interesting. Same, yes. Also near-death experience. So the girl was quite sick. She had some kind of rare bowel disease, stomach disease. She couldn't digest food, in and out of hospital, and you know, really just vomiting and sick all the time. So she falls down a tree, like a hollow trunk of a tree, something like 30 meters or something. It was quite high. I mean, it's like how she survived. But she hits her head, she blacks out, she goes into like a, you know, near-death type experience, and she has a conversation with some kind of guide. Says to her, she says, I don't want to go back, you know, because I'm just in pain. And you know, the agreement is, okay, if you know, you don't want to go back, you don't want to go back sick, so we go back, and if you agree to go back, then your body will be healed, and you can go back and lead a normal life, and you know, be there for your family, and you know, you still have life experiences to learn from. And she told her parents about this, and you know, she'd had this experience, and amazingly, although she'd fallen, you know, all that way, she was fine. The doctor said it's a miracle. I don't know, you know, she should have cracked her skull or something, but she was okay. She I think she had a mild concussion, and that's it. And then after her fall, she didn't need to take her medicine, and her, you know, just her stomach bloating went down, and they went back to the doctor who'd been treating her, and he said, well, you know, I don't know, I can't explain it, but it's gone. Her something wasn't firing correctly, and now it's been rewired and it's firing. It's all working okay as it should. So, you know, she's good. I can't explain how, but so, you know, there's no order of difficulty in miracles, but those people were accessible to that one-ment. They went into the mind and they had the experience. There was that one-ment that healed them, healed the body. You know, not everyone is able to. Our normal kind of default mindset, our perceptions keep us blocked from that kind of level of healing. And if that block is there and it's going to increase someone's fear, then to you know, you can't force the one-ment on anyone. It's got to be something they accept. And a temporary approach, compromise approach might be useful to, you know, potentially open them up. Maybe that reduces their fear, and down the line they might be more open to the one-ment. But for yourself, you know, it's always worth reminding, even if you're using magic means. I was listening to Ken Wapnick on the subject. He was, you know, one of the course's great teachers. So it's okay, all right. So you've got a headache, you know, you can take a pill, but recognize when you're doing that what you're doing. That's all. Just understand what you're doing. You're using magical means to fix the problem, and because these chemicals do have effects on the level of form, okay, so you don't have a headache. All right, that's all right. You know, you don't have to suffer necessarily, but you can actually take headaches away naturally. It's possible. You don't have to take a pill to do it. So there's always another way.
Yeah.
But if you do it, then just understand what you're doing. Okay, I'm using a magical means to remove a pain in my head. Okay, I get it. It's okay. But I don't identify with it all. You see, I don't make it real in my mind. That's the key. Don't identify with the body as your identity, because that's the mistake. If you don't identify with, okay, use the magic, do whatever you want. In fact, preference is just a preference. It's not important to you. It's either identification.
Yeah.
So then you can be in the world but not of it. And ultimately you won't need it. You know, these magical means are unnecessary at the highest level. Not needed. Enlightened beings wouldn't need to take any kind of medicine or magic, because they're beyond it. So that's always the cause. Okay, well, if you're using magic, understand where you are, but there's another level. You could let that go and just do it with your mind. Does that help, my perspective? Or?
No, it does. I was actually just, while you're saying that, I was just thinking about, like, well, maybe, you know, just kind of ask the question. If it, you know, basically if it feels right or not. I mean, for example, the headache, I try not to take a pill. I'd rather go for water or just try to relax. But there has been some occasions where I feel, okay, I need to.
Well, that's, you know, just understand what you're doing, man. It's you're using magic to heal it. If it's just like, let's say you got a headache because you went in the sun too much, you drank too much, whatever, you know, the reason is, there's a seemingly clear cause on the level of form. Okay, well, you take the pill, you remove it. If you drank too much, you want to look at that. Maybe why did you do that? Sometimes, you know, like occasionally I'll get a headache when I've exercised a lot. Intense exercise will do it. Something about the blood through the head, that can do it. Or you know, you go out for a day and you're in the sun a lot, and you get a bit dehydrated. That can do it. So you know the cause. Okay, well, you know, I could try and get rid of this naturally. It will dissipate eventually. If you don't have a headache pill, you know, you can, but it might take hours to remove that. You know, I could take a couple of Panados, paracetamol, and be done with it. Okay, well, I understand what I'm doing. I understand why I'm doing it. It's a conscious choice. Does that mean I'm a body? No, but it means I'm helping the vehicle. I'm giving it some temporary support. Okay, as long as I understand what I'm doing. And Ken Wapnick said, okay, take the pill, but realize what you're doing, and you can have a little smile. Go, okay, I'm using magic, part of the illusion, but okay, magic in this instance, it kind of works. It's all right. I don't, but be careful with using it, because the danger is you become attached to that, then it denies the at-one-ment, and you start believing that the only means of healing is magic. You're denying the power of your mind. So you got to be careful, circumspect about what you do. I mean, headaches, okay, it's not that big a deal. You take a couple of pills, but if you're popping pills regularly for some condition, then maybe that's more of an attachment.
Yeah.
I need the pills to be safe. I'm taking that to control my blood pressure or my cholesterol or whatever. That's, you're using magic all the time, over and over and over again. Well, that's not going to help your at-one-ment process.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is, I mean, it makes sense, whether it's more of if it's a preference or if it's something that you feel attached to, which can lead to maybe, an addiction in some ways.
Well, the mind's attached. I mean, we all know people. I've got parents. I mean, without their pills, what they lost. It's like miles of pills, and you got to take all these pills, and it's drugs, but it's also vitamins. It's like, this is all making us safe, right? It's a protective device for the mind. This is keeping us safe. It's keeping us healthy, and the mind has a strong belief in it, so they will take their pills irrespective. We just know we're going to take our pills because it keeps us safe. Well, that's now a belief that is a magic belief that's going to block your access to the at-one-ment, isn't it? Clearly, because you're believing in the reality of magic and the body. So those kinds of beliefs are there. Then you need to undo them. It's on a different level from okay, well, I take a headache pill every now and then if I get a headache. It's not quite the same.
Yeah.
Level of attachment. So it's always looking at the effect. What's the effect on the mind of that behavior? And if I'm doing it repeatedly, then it's going to have a continuous effect. Every time I take the pills, I'm reinforcing to myself that I'm a body and I need these pills to defend the body, to protect the body and make it safe. That's what I'm telling my mind every time I do it. Well, that's not helpful for me at
John, sorry.
Yeah.
I agree with that on some level. And, I've been told to take blood pressure pills, and I don't. I take magnesium instead. But when you've got something where your life depends on taking something, so, for example, the thing in my life with my son and now my nephew is type 1 diabetes. And, people used to die very quickly from that. And now we have medication and, greatly improved technology. That means people have pretty much the same lifespan as somebody who doesn't have it. But you can't deal with that with your mind. It's a bit like, I've used the example of my car. My car got bashed by a rubbish truck. Well, I probably attracted that with, my thoughts and, where I was emotionally. But there's no way I can repair my car mentally, certainly at the level I'm at. But, and I can't repair a pancreas that is totally non-functioning.
Oh, but
and
you
it's
could.
Just not,
You could. Absolutely, you could. And there's cases of people healing their bodies entirely with the mind. It's possible.
Well, I have never, ever found it. I mean, I found one example.
It may not be in your experience, but it's possible. I mean, yogis have grown limbs back. You can heal anything because it's just a projection of the mind with enough awareness. If you're familiar with the story of Anita Mojani.
Yeah, I know that one very well.
Incredible.
But
the whole body
there are
regenerates.
miraculous
Medically impossible. I said that's not possible, but it happened. So the body can regenerate to a high degree, and these kinds of illnesses, type 1 diabetes, that could disappear. That absolutely could, with a correction in the mind.
Well, not at the level that I or my son are at.
Yeah,
we're not yogis. We're not at that very advanced level. So,
but you could become so if you trained your mind. You see that one-ment is accessible to everyone if you train your mind accordingly. So it is possible to heal any bodily condition with the mind, because the mind's just the body is a projection of the mind, and the mind ultimately controls the body. And there've been many instances. I don't know if you were on when I was talking about the Miracles from Heaven movie. I don't know if you watched that.
Yeah.
There was a girl who had a chronic condition. Her stomach wasn't firing. It was like some rare condition where her digestive system couldn't work properly, and caused all kinds of problems. And then she just got rewired. She had a near-death experience. It was like a decision. Yes, I'll come back, but I want to be healed. Decision of the mind, and then got recalibrated. The body healed. Couldn't explain it. It just, it healed. So these kinds of things can happen. There is no order of difficulty in miracles, and that applies particularly to the body. You might say, okay, well, I can't heal I can't fix my car with my mind. Maybe not. Maybe you could manifest a new car, but with the body, it's directly under the control of the mind. So you absolutely can. It's a projection of the mind, and all this can be healed if you allow it. What he's saying here is you may temporarily be inaccessible to the atonement, in which case, the non-creative agents, it's not evil. It says it doesn't follow use for such agents is evil. Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold of the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the atonement. Okay, so you can't quite get there. So then, use in this case, type 1 insulin, use the treatment. But the problem is if you just keep on that, then you never really heal the mind. You
can't not be on it. You'd be dead.
No, but it's possible to heal it.
I agree with Jono, because I have a friend in SA, South Africa, who started this I think it was a 21-day diabetes reversal program.
Yeah, that's type 2. Different disease completely. Not
diabetes. It is diabetes. I'm talking about diabetes.
2. It's type 2. You can reverse type 2, no question. You cannot reverse. I haven't, in years of research, I've never had anybody use reverse.
There is no order of difficulty in miracles. Right?
Okay, I have other examples, actually, great examples. I met 4 people that were in wheelchairs, and doctors have told them they'll never walk again. They'll never walk again. They were vegetables, literally vegetables, like drooling on their wheelchairs. And through their mind, they managed to heal and walk again. And I've met these miraculous people, these miracle people. So if that's possible, I really believe everything is possible now.
Anything's possible. Because here's the thing, right? The miracles do not obey the laws of time and space. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So we have a fixed belief, well, you'd be dead if you didn't have this, and there's a belief there. But none of those beliefs are true. He says, let's go back to where were we? In was it there? No, not that one. Let's find it. This one. It was here. I was on lesson 76 just now. Somewhere, one of these tabs. There we go. Found it. He says, I'll ask you to read this. You think that you must obey the laws. You call them laws and put them, so you think you must obey. You want to read that? You think you must obey.
I can't see which one. Where are we?
There you go.
You think you must obey the laws of medicine, of economics, and of health. Protect the body and you will be saved.
Yeah,
these are not laws, but madness. The body's endangered by the mind that hurts itself. The body suffers just in order that the mind will fail to see it is the victim of itself. The body's suffering is a mask the mind holds up to hide what really suffers. It would not understand it is its own enemy, but it attacks itself and wants to die. is from this your laws would save the body. It is for this you think you are a body.
And then carry on. There are no laws.
No laws except the laws of God. This needs repeating over and over until you realize it applies to everything that you have made in opposition to God's will. Your magic has no meaning. What it is meant to save does not exist. Only what it is meant to hide will save you. The laws of God can never be replaced. We will devote today to rejoicing that this is so. It is no longer truth that we would hide. We realize instead it is the truth that keeps us free forever. Magic imprisons, but the laws of God make free. The light has come because there are no laws but his.
Pretty categoric. He's just telling us these laws that you believe in, the laws of medicine and economics and nutrition, and all of this is a construct of your mind. You've made it all up to replace the laws of God.
I never believed in any of that. If we nearly lost my son because he went into moments of a coma, and I believed, there was no way I was going to take him to hospital. One of the good things Max did was to show up at that moment and say he needs to be in hospital, and he did. And
so
and
in that instance, yes, okay, he's not accessible.
Look at Steve Jobs as well. Steve Jobs tried everything, and didn't save him, did it?
Well, we don't know what was going on in Steve Jobs' mind. He was maybe inaccessible to that one moment, to the moment, because he had too much, karma, negativity going on. Maybe there was the belief that he deserved to suffer. I know he was quite an angry guy. He had a lot of difficult relationships, and he was notoriously difficult in business. So, who knows what's going on in his mind? But the at-one-ment is accessible. It's possible. It doesn't mean he's saying it's always going to be, always going to be possible in this world, because the minds are not necessarily attuned to that. They're not open to it. So then a compromise approach can be used. Okay, well, in the instance of your son's in hospital, going comatose. Okay, take him to hospital, save his life, get him, onto into a state where he's okay. It's not life-threatening, and then maybe you can work on that one month and say, okay, well, now we're in a better position. We can start doing some mind training and try and heal this with the mind.
But do you think I can do it for him?
I think if you believe it, that would be a start. You believing that it's not possible, it would mean that it's not possible, because
but I've done so much work on my beliefs around it, and
but there's still more. I can tell.
Well, I know, but this is,
and it is possible. So are you going to believe Yeshua telling you, look, there are no laws but the laws of God, and all these other laws you've made up are just replacements and they are madness? Or are you still going to believe the ego saying, no, but in this case, with type 1 diabetes, it's impossible, which denies that there's no order of difficulty in miracles. Because if it was impossible, then there would be an order of difficulty, and there would be something the spirit could not do. And that's not the case. As has been demonstrated, as already said many times, there's many, many examples of miraculous healing. I know people who've had miraculous healing. There's records, if you go to Lourdes, there's people who just miraculously heal.
I've been to
no
Lourdes.
Explanation. There's so many instances. So, that's
all of them had faith. That was the only key element, that from all the 4 persons I met, they all had faith, and that's what saved them. The faith.
Well, I dragged my son to Lourdes with complete faith. Didn't do anything. There we are.
Yeah. Well, they they believed. So
they believed.
It's a rewiring. Your son, but you can't do it if your son doesn't want to. You can't force him. That one month is a choice. He would have to go on this path. This would be the healing of his own mind, not just to heal the body. It's to heal his mind and learn the truth of who he really is. And then as a side effect of that process of awakening, his diabetes may disappear. That's a possibility. I don't know. You should never go, I'm only doing this to heal my physical condition. because that's not really what it's about. It's the healing of the mind is primary, and then the healing of the body will follow. So, you know, there might come a time in his life where he's interested in what you're interested in. He says, you know, Mom, tell me more, and you help him on this path, and then that may lead to, you know, ultimately the healing of his type 1 diabetes, or maybe not. You don't know, but it is certainly possible. There's no doubt in my mind that anything, like when medics say it's impossible, they have no idea. And it's been proven so many times that the impossible is possible, that like, well, whatever they say then is just ridiculous, because it is possible. It's been done many times. And I'm sure if you research, you could find someone who's healed himself or herself of type 1 diabetes with the mind. I'm sure
I spent years online. I mean, not for recently, but yeah, looking for that. And
I'm sure there's someone out there who's done it. Almost certain. So
it's not online.
You can't find it if you've got beliefs that block it.
But I didn't have beliefs. I believed you could heal anything. I mean, I've been into
belief now.
Well, I've had alternatives. Well, I have done lots more clearing around it. Do I believe type 1 diabetes is healable? You know, my pension tells me that I believe it's healable, but
what does your mind tell you? I mean, there was quite a lot of resistance. And you said, no, it's not possible. No, that was a belief.
I suppose I get triggered when, because I hear a lot of stuff like, oh, it's diet, you can do it on diet. So you can't. You know, it's possible with perhaps with the level of healing of the mind that you're talking about, but
of course, because the mind can.
But you know, I also think we have to be very responsible, because you know, I had so many issues of non-compliance. I had to call out the police, the ambulance, just to get him and keep him alive. And no amount. And I was the most alternative, you know, anti-conventional medicine person you could wish to meet. And for some reason, this came into my life. I had to deal with something that required a lot of medical intervention. I don't know why.
It's convinced you that then the laws of the ego are somehow true. So it's a defense of the ego to show you that. Now, you did what you needed. I'm not saying you shouldn't have done that. You did what you needed to do in the circumstances. You know, it's like, okay, well, my son could die. I think I should call an ambulance, get him to hospital. Okay, because as you say, like, you know, it's appropriate that he's not accessible to that 1 month if he's in a coma. It's not possible. But now, you know, is there a resident belief there that's a block? You know, you've got to be honest about that. Say, well, you know, has that experience now convinced me that in this instance there's an exception, that somehow miracles are not possible in this instance because of my experience? Because that's all it's telling you. I've tried, haven't found a way. But did you really fully let go? And has your son, you know, gone on any kind of systematic path of healing his mind using this kind of a teaching? Probably not. So.
No, I mean, he's read some philosophers, Jung and people like that, but not to the level.
Not like this. So, you know, that 1 month is a deep healing of the mind. The people who have these miraculous healings, let's say they have a near-death experience, that is a profound healing experience. It's a complete shift in their reality. Which
one of the person I'm talking about, that's a miracle. It was actually a colleague, a son of a colleague that we did brain gym. We were training to the brain gym, and his brain was smashed from a car accident. He was in a coma for 6 months, and so that's why he was back to like square one, having to be born like a baby and learn to walk, learn to eat, learn to do everything all over again, from wheelchair vegetable state to being like you and I, or like a normal person again, to be able to walk. I mean, it took him it's a miracle. It took him 1.5 years to walk again. That's a miracle. And it was through like a quantum healing, through mind setting, through praying, through having faith. The mom, she never gave up. She kept the faith. She was praying and she only allowed positive people around him, and she was praying all the time for him, you know, to really recover from this. And that was a true miracle. I mean, that is the true miracle of healing that I witnessed. I mean, I saw the video of him, you know, like re-educating, learning to walk again. I mean, it was really, it was, I know it's hard to believe, but it's so hard to believe, but it is, when you see it, it's believable because it happened. So.
Yeah, and there's been other instances. There was a guy called Miracle Man. He had some dreadful plane crash. I mean, he smashed his legs into, like, I mean, his bones were fractured and broken. It was like the doctors, you're never going to walk again.
Yeah.
He lay in the hospital, and he used his mind to heal him. He said, "No, I'm not going to believe that story."
Exactly. Same here.
And he asked for the healing, and it's like a healing field. He lay in the healing field, and that healed his body. And I think 9 months later, he walked out of the hospital. They were like, "How did you do that? It shouldn't have been possible." But he did it with the power of his mind, and he had, you know, he had faith in something beyond the physical laws. So that, you know, the medics were telling him, "Yeah, you can't do this," and he just, something in him was like, "No, I know I can." The miracles do not obey the laws of the world. You know, that's really what we've got to realize. So none of those laws apply actually in truth. None of these laws. He goes through them. The laws of nutrition, the laws of immunization, the laws of medication, the body's protection in innumerable ways, you know, all of it is false. And then he goes on to other laws, the laws of friendship and good relationships and reciprocity. And perhaps you even think their laws set forth what is God's and what is yours. It's a great lesson, because it's like all of these laws we've made up are false. And they are part of the false construct of the ego. It keeps us enslaved into the belief in separation and supports that belief system. But there are no laws but God's, right? There are no laws but the laws of oneness, which is perfect love. That's the only law there is in truth. There's nothing else. Dismiss all foolish magical beliefs. Hold your mind in silent readiness to hear the voices that speak the truth to you. And, you know, if you hold to this for your son, you keep reminding yourself it's possible. You might find that a miracle can happen because you believe it. And something will open up. Just watch in the next few weeks, maybe something will open up on this field, and somewhere someone will come in and say, "Oh, yeah, I did it, and here's how I did it," and you make contact. But you've got to open your mind and say, "Okay, I don't believe in the ego's law here. This is not true. Type 1 diabetes must be healable because there is no order of difficulty in miracles." Very simple. I don't necessarily have to understand how that is possible, because miracles don't obey the normal laws. You can't explain them, but they work. You're going into the very fabric of the mind, and it's rewiring stuff, because it's all mind. So, you know, it can all be rewired. We don't really understand how that's possible, how it works, but that it does work, that it can work, is, you know, there's a lot of evidence of that. So see what happens, you know, collapse that belief. Go, okay, I'm open to his healing. And, you know, if I'm meant to be part of that and an instrument of that, then show me the way. And then let it go. Let go of the expectations. Okay, whatever. I've put it out there. If and when it's meant to happen, it will happen. And that's the miracle-minded attitude. I'm not trying. As soon as you try too hard, I think you've been trying too hard. I've been researching.
Yeah,
you're trying way too hard.
Yeah.
So there's an expectation, there's a desire, your personal ego is getting involved. So you got, no, you know, this is what I believe. I do it in faith and trust. If this is meant to be, show me the way. You put it out there, and then you forget about it. And you might be quite surprised at what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's good.
All right.
How do you call do you say level 1 diabetes? How do you call it?
Type 1.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Type 1. So in type 1, you have no
Type 1
function at all. But in type 2, you have some. So you can heal it with food. So type 2 is a lifestyle, normally lifestyle,
Okay.
and people get it when they get older. So by changing your diet, you can certainly make very significant improvements in exercise and things like that. But type 1, the pancreas has stopped working. The cells don't work.
I'm going to ask this friend actually if he managed to help reverse diabetes type 1 actually with his program, because he's really committed to healing with this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that'd be interesting.
It'll be interesting actually to find out. Yeah.
Yeah. Can he do it for type 1? Was it just type 2?
I'm going to ask him. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Thank you.
Crack on. Number 5. Jackie, do you want to read that for us? The value of the atonement.
Yeah, the value of the atonement does not lie in the manner in which it is expressed. In fact, if it is used truly, it will inevitably be expressed in whatever way is most helpful to the receiver. This means that a miracle, to attain its full efficacy, must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand without fear.
Okay, so pause it there. Read the alternative. There's a translation there.
The value of the atonement does not lie in the manner in which it is expressed. In fact, if it is used truly, it will inevitably be expressed in whatever way is most helpful to the receiver.
Okay,
this means that a correction to attain its full efficacy must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand without fear. And that's important, isn't it, actually?
Yeah, no point in trying to correct someone and they're fearful and they can't understand without fear.
Yeah.
So you need to try and find a way to get beyond that fear, communicate to them in a way that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. This does not necessarily mean.
This does not necessarily mean that this is the highest level of communication of which he is capable. It does mean, however, that it is the highest level of communication of which he is capable now. The whole aim of the correction is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. That's very good, isn't it?
Yeah. So correction is, what can be truly helpful. This is why the previous point was, okay, well, sometimes the material agents can be helpful. Someone's really fearful. You cannot force the atonement upon them.
Yeah.
You want to try and help them to get out of their fear-prone condition, maybe reduce the fear, and then maybe down the line they might be more accessible to the atonement.
Yeah.
So he's saying just be guided, be wise, be guided, be empathetic. The worst kind of there's stories of Course in Miracles people being hugely insensitive and going to someone who's lying down in hospital and they've paralyzed or they're sick and say, you're not sick, it's all in your mind, just get up and walk. And it's just tactless and everyone's like, you're not a body, and it's not, because it's not empathetic to them, it's not understanding where they're at and that they're not there in their mind. So he's saying, have a bit of discernment and what's truly helpful. I mean, what's the prayer of the miracle worker? How can I be truly helpful in this situation? Is the only prayer, isn't it? Of the miracle worker. So some quite practical guidance as to how to deal with this issue. And if you're dealing with people who are sick, which we often do, how do you approach it? How can you still use magic if it's appropriate, but realize what you're doing? Kim's point, I don't know if you were here, but she was saying, well, use magic, and okay, but realize what you're doing. If you take a headache pill, realize you're using magic. So you're not believing, you're not fully believing in it. You're going, okay, I'm using understand that on the level of form, these things seem to work. I can take a pill and it'll take away the headache, but it's that ultimately, my mind is beyond this. I'm not really a body. I'm just using it as a temporary expedient to get rid of my sore head in the moment. And that's, it became Wapnick advised. He said, yeah, that's okay, but just realize what you're doing. Have a little smile when you take the pill and realize what you're doing. Okay, then the mind is still in a corrected state. So you're in the world, but you're not of it. But as if the pills become your safety and your security, and you're like, everything gets attached to, the pills are keeping me safe, and then you have a problem. Then you're believing in the ego and the magic rather than in the power of your mind. There's the level of attachment really that's important. Okay, so let's do a little translation of this. Can you summarize that for us? And I'll just write down your summary. What's he saying there in summary? I'll bring it up again.
Let me just see it. Okay. So in reality, the way you express it doesn't matter, but you do need to be and spirit will give you the right words, if you're tuned in, that are the most helpful to the person listening.
Yeah.
Which is important, because for the miracle to be fully effective. No, you're doing that. I can't see it. Okay.
We'll just,
There we are.
We'll go and just
Okay.
edit this a bit, make it shorter and sweeter. So can you create a nice summary of that paragraph?
Okay.
So it does not align the manner in which it
So
expressed.
it's important that the correction is expressed in a way that the person hearing it can receive it without becoming more fearful and increasing the problem. That doesn't mean that's the only way. It may be that further down the line they can hear it. They can hear more than they can at that particular moment. But spirit, miracle will get the right words.
Understand without fear. Not necessarily doesn't mean either is the highest level of communication which is capable. No, only the correction is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. Expressed in a way the recipient can understand without fear. Can we summarize it some more? Does not mean that this is the highest level.
So you could just say at a later point, the recipient might be able to receive a higher level of communication.
Yeah. Okay. This means that this is the highest level of communication which he is capable now.
Which is capable in that moment.
The highest level which he is capable now. Well, do we see in that moment or now? Is it now okay?
Well, at the moment when you're speaking to him.
Because the whole aim of the correction is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. It's the aim of corrections. Capable at that moment. To raise the level of communication How about we just say is to be, the aim of corrections is to be truly effective and helpful. Yes, it's important that any correction.
I wouldn't say this means that. You could say it's important to use the highest level of communication of which the recipient is capable of at that moment.
Way that the recipient can understand without fear. Which
but that
is the highest level of communication, which
I mean, I'm thinking, if you meet somebody who's just had an accident, they're in a state of panic, you're going to be talking to them differently at that point than you would be further down the line when the panic subsided and they're able to take more in. So I think it's trying to say there will be different levels of communication at different stages, but you've got to meet the person where they are at that particular moment. Because if you can't meet somebody who's just had an accident and start talking to them about the one-ment and the levels of the mind, because that would be completely inappropriate. But further down the line, that might be appropriate.
Oh, okay. I mean, he hasn't said that, so we're going to be adding in stuff that he hasn't said. So
that's how I understood it, but trying to put it into a practical level.
But, we'll read that and see if you're happy with that. Quite short.
Okay, why don't you put a full stop after moment and then say, this is because the aim of corrections is to be truly effective and helpful.
Okay. Truly effective and helpful to the person in the state of mind
they are in.
Which they are currently. In which they are currently, or they are currently in.
Well, I would say they're currently in. I go for the fewest number of words.
State of mind they're currently in. The state of mind they're currently in, isn't it? In the state of mind.
State of mind.
They are currently.
It's helpful to the person in their current state of mind would be much.
Yeah, helpful to the person in their current state of mind. Okay, so I think that's quite clear.
Yeah.
So being empathetic, not charging in like a bull in a china shop, saying, "Oh well, the course says this," and no empathy. It's like, no, be kind and what do they need at that point to be truly effective and helpful, and that's what's going to be the most effective approach. I remember once doing a healing. It was a kind of a holotropic breathing. It's a lady, and she was really into the Holy Spirit, but it was like sort of worshipping the Holy Spirit, which is totally incorrect, inappropriate. But she gave like a prayer of thanks to the Holy Spirit, after the ceremony. So the whole and she's speaking in some tongues language, and it's the whole thing, which is her it was a special thing, right? So the guys just come out of it, and he was quite tearful, he was quite emotional, and he wanted to talk. He wanted to connect. So of course I ignored her. I left her doing her thing, and I was just sitting with them and saying, okay, well, how was that? And he expressed himself, and a few tears, and he said thank you, and it was really nice. It was a connection. Then afterwards, she's like incredibly frosty to me. I'm like, okay, what's this about? I said, Janice, what's the story? I don't get it. I thought that went quite well. He clearly got something out of that. I want to talk about it. And then she comes out, no, you were disrespectful to the Holy Spirit, because I was praying and you were talking to this guy, and you weren't respecting this prayer. And I'm like, you completely missed the point of what the Holy Spirit is. She didn't understand some conceptual idea that the Holy Spirit's there and it needs praise and worship, when in fact the Holy Spirit just wants to connect in a loving way with that person in the moment. That was the Holy Spirit in action in what I was doing, not in what she was doing. That was illusion. She didn't get it. She couldn't accept, because it was her whole belief system was distorted. And I never did it with her again, because it was clear we couldn't work together. But there's an example of false belief system, and then her beliefs totally distorted. She's not seeing what's truly helpful to the person in the moment, and instead has got her own idea about, well, I'm worshiping the Holy Spirit, and God does not need your praise and your worship. I promise you, doesn't need any of that stuff, because God has no ego with which to receive it. It's just like, it doesn't need your praise or your worship. But that's the distortions of the ego mind, making it into something outside that needs some kind of ceremony. Of course, it was her special thing. It was her, like, she could speak in tongues or whatever. I think she just made it up, but there was this whole thing, and this was her special thing, and so it was actually her specialness that was being disregarded, because I really wasn't bothered about her prayer. I was more interested in him, because that was what we were there for. So that was an example of of this, giving it in a way that's effective and helpful to the person in their current state of mind, and ignoring whatever ceremonies and okay. So I think that brings us to the end. It's only 5 paragraphs, but we've been at it nearly 3 hours, so it's a deep dive, isn't it? It's a deep dive into these into the text. So Jackie, I'm going to ask you to read this. This is the summary, personalized executive summary of the whole thing, and then if you'd like to, we can do a 20-minute meditation on the summary.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. The emphasis is now on my healing, which is always a correction in my mind and never achieved when fear is present. So my healing is essentially the release from my fear. When I am sick, I am not in my right mind and believing that what is wrong on the level of form, i.e. the body, can adversely affect my mind. Accepting the at-one-ment will heal all my errors, whether they are on the mind or body level of reality, by helping me recognize that only my mind can make errors and my body can act wrongly only when it is responding to my misdirected thoughts. If I am ill, I must believe in magic, which is that there is a creative ability in matter which my mind cannot control. An error which can be the belief that the mind can which is the belief that there's a creative ability in matter which my mind cannot control. An error which can be the belief that my mind can miscreate in the body, or that the body can miscreate in the mind.
Put a sentence in it.
Yeah. Okay, shall I read that again?
This can be the error. Be the error matter. If there's a creative ability in matter which my mind cannot control, this can take 2 forms. That was what he said originally. This error can take 2 forms. How's that? The mind can miscreate in the body, or the body can miscreate in the mind.
Yeah, either that the mind can miscreate in the body, or that the mind can miscreate in the mind.
Would you put a colon there? Either that.
Yeah. You need to work out what the 2 forms are. Either that the mind can miscreate in the body, comma, so that's the first one. Is that right? Or that the body can miscreate in the mind, full stop.
Yeah.
And then take out but, when I understand that my mind is the only level of existence, I will not be confused by either error.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that you need the but, if I've probably got however.
But when I understand, because then that links to the previous sentence.
Okay, if you want to link it.
But when I understand, then I won't be confused.
Okay, if you want to link it, then you can put however. I just think it's better style.
However, rather than but.
Yeah, that's normally in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah.
However, comma. Yeah. Okay, shall I read that paragraph again?
Yeah.
When I am sick, I'm not in my right mind. And I am believing that what is wrong on the level of form, i.e. the body, can adversely affect my mind. Accepting the at-one-ment will heal all my errors, whether they are on the mind or body level of reality, by helping me recognize that only my mind can make errors and my body can act wrongly, only when it is responding to any misdirected thoughts. That's a bit of a struggle, that sentence. There's two onlys in there. I don't know. If I am ill, I must believe in magic, which is the belief that there is a creative ability in matter which my mind cannot control. This error can take two forms, either that the mind can miscreate in the body or that the body can miscreate in the mind. However, when I understand that my mind is the only level of existence, I will not be confused by either. You don't need error, but... Do you want to sort out that sentence above? It didn't read properly to me, but so accepting the atonement will heal all my errors, whether they are on the mind or the body level of reality, by helping me recognize that only my mind can make errors. Full stop.
Why do you want to full stop?
It's so long, you kind of lose the direction of it. My body can act wrongly only when it is responding to my misdirection. Okay.
But it's related to the recognition. You see?
Okay, all right.
By helping you recognize that.
Okay.
Well, these are the two things. Only my mind can make errors, my body can act wrong. So it's a double recognition. Only when it's responding to my misdirected thoughts.
Okay. My body is a learning device for my mind, and its purpose is merely to facilitate my learning. The worst my faulty use of this learning device can do is to fail to facilitate my learning, because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in this world, and so I do not need to try to completely deny the body while I seem to be still living in a body, but only need to reinterpret it as a learning device for my mind, so it cannot hurt me. Any attempt to heal the body through material aid.
We changed, Jackie, just so you know, because you missed this, I think, you came in.
Yeah.
We actually changed the meaning, just so you know what we did, which...
okay.
This particular section here, there's two lines here. If you want to read those, the term unworthy.
Oh, the term unworthy here applies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. If one denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power, one is also denying the power itself.
Yeah. And the previous sentence, those who do so engaging in a particularly unworthy form of denial. So actually read it in context. So the body is merely part. Read it from number 8.
The body is merely part of your experience in the physical world. Its abilities can be, and frequently are, these commas, over-evaluated. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in this world. Those who do so are engaging in a particularly unworthy form of denial. The term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. If one denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power, one is also denying the power itself.
So that is the one those two lines in the course. In my view, that contradicts the entire rest of the teaching. Because if you look,
interesting.
Yeah, look at what he talked about in chapter 2, section 2, atonement is defense, environment is defense. He says here, this is in the same chapter, two sections before, true denial. You want to read it? True denial is a powerful protective device.
True denial is a powerful protective device. You can and should deny any belief that error can hurt you. This kind of denial is not a concealment, but a correction. Your right mind depends on it. Denial of error is a strong defense of truth, but denial of truth results in miscreation, the projections of the ego. In the service of the right mind, the denial of error frees the mind and re-establishes the freedom of the will. When the will is really free, it cannot miscreate because it recognizes only truth.
Yeah, so that's what he said.
Yeah.
Would you say that kind of contradicts what he's saying here? In my view, it's totally, he's saying it's not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. Well, what's he just said? You must protect the mind by denying the unmindful. It's a contradiction. And in fact, the whole teaching of the course rests on the idea that you're denying, the unmindful. You're denying what is an error. The unmindful would be an error. That which is not of the mind, the form, the level of illusion, that's the unmindful.
Right.
You must deny it. So this has to go, in my view. You can't keep this and keep the consistency of the thought system throughout.
Right.
So we've reinterpreted it. So we've reinterpreted those two lines. The term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. One denies this unfortunate aspect of the mind's power. One also denies the power. One is also denying the power itself. 2, you want to read here, the term unworthy.
The term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary to completely deny the projections of the ego mind, like the body, while you are still living in a body. You only need to reinterpret these projections with the help of the remembrance of perfect love so they cannot hurt you. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're not trying to deny the existence of the body. You're reinterpreting it and saying, okay, this is a vehicle for my learning. It's actually helpful and it cannot hurt me.
Yes.
It doesn't then contradict the entire teaching here. And I'm surprised they didn't put this out. I think that if they edited it again, they might well say, take that one out because it's not consistent with the rest of the teaching. And it's I've been uncomfortable with this for years. But I think now it's finally like, okay, you know what? Just we're retranslating it. Take it out. It doesn't belong in here. And no doubt,
does it make sense to just take out the knot?
Do that. Does
it make sense if you just take out the knot?
What?
No, hang on. Those who do so engage in unworthy form of denial. That's only that it is. It would make sense if it just said the term unworthy here implies only that it is necessary to protect the mind by denying. So you took out that knot, the unmindful. It's like
but then the term unworthy wouldn't make sense.
No.
Term unworthy here, the knot was meant to be in there, but I think the whole thing is.
It doesn't make any sense to me anyway. I can't really understand it. Okay.
The whole thing contradicts the teaching. So we take it out.
That's good.
And of course, purists might have an issue with that, but it doesn't. Okay, Susie, thanks. I'll see you tomorrow. So just so you know, we're going to do tomorrow's session at we're going to start at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Because I've got my son's got a football tournament. He's on half term, and I need to spend some time with him. So I'm going to do the morning session 10 o'clock until about 12-ish, and then evening session probably a bit later, start at 6.
Okay, that's good.
I'll put that out there on the group, so everyone knows.
That's
okay.
Good.
So let's get back to that's generally these translations. What we're trying to do is not change the meaning. We're trying to just reinterpret and make the meaning more accessible. But in that case, we've changed the meaning because it doesn't gel.
Definitely needed doing. So where did we get to?
Body is a learning device for my mind.
My body is a learning device for my mind, and its purpose is merely to facilitate my learning. The worst my 40 years of this learning device can do is to fail to facilitate my learning, because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in this world, and so I do not need to try to completely deny the body while I seem to still be living in a body, but only need to reinterpret it as a learning device for my mind so it cannot hurt me. Yeah.
So it's just a learning device. Whatever it brings to me, even if it's apparent physical pain, it's helpful. It's a learning device. I'm learning from this. So it can't really hurt me.
Yeah. Any attempt to heal the body through material agents reinforces the power of magic. However, sometimes an illness may have a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to make a person temporarily unable to let go and access the power of the at-one-ment, in which case it may be wise to take a compromise approach to mind and body, in which a material agent is temporarily given healing belief. Makes sense? It's important that any correction is expressed in a way that the recipient can understand without fear, which is the highest level of communication of which he or she is capable at that moment. This is because the aim of corrections is to be truly effective and helpful to the person in their current state of mind.
Yeah, I'm just thinking we kind of lost the personalization. So it is important that any correction I try to make on behalf or for another express in a way the recipient, the person that really can understand without fear. Corrections be truly effective and helpful.
We say try to. I thought we didn't say try to. So try to was one of those.
Any connection I attempt to, maybe. I attempt to make.
Could you just say that I make any correction I make?
Correction I make for another person is expressed in a way that the person can understand without fear. She or she is capable of that moment. Which
any correction, you don't even need I make that any correction for another person. It's important that I express any correction for another person in a way that they can understand without fear. Full stop. This is the highest level of communication, or this would be the highest level of communication that he or she, they, if you want, is capable of at that moment. Because the aim of corrections is to be truly effective and helpful.
Be the highest level which he or she is capable of that moment. And then let's just take out. Because the aim of corrections is to be truly effective and helpful to the person in the current state of mind.
Yeah.
Okay, read it from the top. If we're happy with that, then we've got a wrap, nice summary, and we'll meditate on it.
Okay. Can you just move it down for me? I can't.
It is important, not the whole.
Oh, just that paragraph. Okay.
Just the paragraph.
Okay.
Important that I express.
It is important that I express any correction I make for another person in a way that the person can that they can understand without fear.
There you go. Okay. So.
You don't need that there either. In a way they can understand without fear. This would be the highest level of communication.
He or she. I've said they.
The highest level of communication. Well, you can do if you. I mean that.
When you say they, is that okay?
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that sort of language seems to have moved on. People use they now. People used to be a bit more specific with he or she, but this would be the highest level of communication, of which they are capable of at that moment, because the aim of corrections or a correction is to be truly effective and helpful in the person's current state of mind.
To the person in their current state of mind. I think we should keep. I think that's nice.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. So there we have a nice little personalized executive summary, which will be there for future. Next time we do it, you can go to this, and then the idea is we meditate on it. So not the whole thing, but just the executive summary. So you kind of get the download of what is the key teaching in this in an altered state. So if you're up for a meditation, everyone, would you like to do a med?
Yeah.
4 minutes or so. So
how long was that, Jono, you said?
Yeah, about 20 minutes, something like that, 25 minutes. Is that okay?
Okay.
So just making yourself comfortable, sitting feet shoulder width apart, your back straight, up your hands in your lap, close your eyes, and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So you're breathing in, you're noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. You clench the sphincter muscle, you lock the energy in, draw the energy up the spine into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart to connect with your heart space, just feeling into it. And draw the energy all the way up into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. So you smile. And just scan your mind, noticing any thoughts, emotions arising for you, any body sensations related to them. Breathe into that. You bring in some spacious awareness, some light into your mind. And I'm going to just let go and release. You're going to exhale now and just remind yourself that these thoughts that I think do not mean anything. Thoughts do not mean anything. And blow them away with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness they really are. Going, gone. All the low stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And just rest in this state of oneness, state of peace, happiness, love, joy, freedom. It's all there. So in this quiet, calm state, invite these words in to your mind, just breathing in and out through your nose. Observing the breath. Watching breath flow into your nostrils and out of your nostrils. Stomach rises, the stomach falls. Just observe all of this. There's nothing else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still. And just observe the breath. The breath bringing you into a quiet, calm, empty, open, spacious state of mind. So you're receptive to the truth. So just allow these words to permeate into your awareness on a deeper level. Like pebbles in a pond just dropping in to this calm, still, quiet place. As your mind is so still, you're going to absorb all the ripples in your mind go deeper to a deeper level of your mind, deeper level of understanding. And experientially start feeling into these words. So just breathing in and out through your nose and just feeling the power of these words. Goes beyond intellectual understanding then to the feeling. Of truth. And just keep watching your breath, breathing in and out through the nose, observing the breath flowing into and out of the nostrils as I speak. Keep you rooted into this very clear, calm, receptive state. You're emptying your vessel, which is your mind, to receive these words. So the emphasis is now on my healing, which is always a correction in my mind and never achieved when fear is present. So my healing is essentially the release from my fear. And that's what healing means. Let go of fear. No longer in my mind. When I'm sick, I'm not in my right mind. And I'm believing that what is wrong on the level of form, in other words, the body, can adversely affect my mind. Attached to the level of body and form. Accepting that one moment will heal all my errors, whether they are on the mind or body level of reality, helping me recognize that only my mind can make errors, and my body can act wrongly only when it is responding to my misdirected thoughts. As only my mind is true, real, that's the level of truth, reality. Only my mind can really make errors, the body cannot make errors, or you can just manifest errors. And my body can act wrongly, so I behave wrongly when it is responding to my misdirected thoughts. So it's all coming from my mind. If I am ill, I must believe in magic, which is the belief that there is a creative ability in matter, which my mind cannot control. Some kind of power in matter, in form, but is beyond the mind. But if everything is mind, mind is everywhere, the entire world, the universe is a projection of mind, then that cannot be true. The mind can control any reality. The mind is primary, it's primary reality, it's fundamental. So this error, belief in magic, and belief there is a creative ability in matter which the mind can control, can take two forms. Either the mind can miscreate in the body, or the body can miscreate in the mind. However, when I understand that my mind is the only level of existence, I will not be confused by either error. So, only my mind truly exists. Body is not true, it's a false level. So the duality collapses. I can't really miscreate in the body, or body cannot miscreate in the mind, because there is only mind. There is no body, ultimately. My body is a learning device for my mind. That's all it is. It's merely there to facilitate my learning. The worse my faulty use of this learning device can do is to fail to facilitate my learning, because it isn't inherently open to misinterpretation. So just keep breathing, nice deep slow rhythmical breaths, observing the breath flowing into the nostrils and out of the nostrils. And surrendering into this deeper awareness, breath awareness. So my body is a learning device for my mind. Its purpose is merely to facilitate my learning. That's all it's there to do. So the worst my faulty use of this learning device can do is to fail to facilitate my learning, because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in this world, so I do not need to try to completely deny the body while I seem to be still living in a body, but I only need to reinterpret it as a learning device for my mind so it cannot hurt me. So the body is just a learning device. It's a vehicle, gives me experiences in this world, helps me to learn. Even if those experiences seem to be painful, they are helpful because they're helping my mind to learn the truth of who I am. When we attempt to heal the body through material agents, reinforces the power of magic. Moreover, sometimes an illness may have a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to make a person temporarily unable to let go and access the power of their wonderment. In which case, it may be wise to take a compromised approach to mind and body in which a material agent is temporarily given healing belief. So sometimes can use these material agents, magic, it's called, to heal, because the mind of the person is inaccessible to environment. It's not ready to let it all go and believe that it is one, let go of its false identity. So it's important that I express any correction I make for another person in a way they can understand without fear. So this will be the highest level of communication they're capable of at that moment. not the ultimately the highest level. That's what they're capable of at that moment, because the aim of corrections is to be truly effective and helpful to the person trying to help in their current state of mind, and meet them where they are. So just dropping in, letting all this kind of drop into your awareness, deeper awareness. So you integrate it all, you allow it to seep in, download it, it's become part of your mind, your thought system. And just be quiet, be still for a couple of minutes. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe out through your nose, relax, be still. Surrender into the still, calm, quiet state of mind. Nothing else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still. If any thoughts come in to distract you, use today's lesson to help you clear them. So these thoughts do not mean anything. And exhale, breathe them out, letting them all go to the nothingness they really are. Going, gone. And nothingness they really are. And you just rest in this still, calm, quiet, peaceful state of awareness. Any thoughts come in to distract you, remind yourself. These thoughts do not mean anything. Like the things I think I see. In this room, in my world. And blow them away. It's the breeze of your breath. And nothingness they really are. And just rest here in this still, calm, quiet, peaceful stillness. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just be still in the moment. Allow this true awareness that all these words point to arise in your mind and your awareness for the next minute or so of deep silence. So just coming back simply to an awareness of the body and the breath, senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pausing at the top of the inhale, smile. Scan your mind, notice thoughts, emotions, any body sensations going on. Anything that feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricted in any way. Just observe it and remind yourself that these thoughts do not mean anything. They're like the things I think I see. So exhale, blow the thoughts out, letting them go with the breeze of your breath. Notice how the air flows out, chest and the stomach suck back in. Count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling. Your hands and touching, maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, a smell in your nose. And notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things from this very still, calm and surrendered state of mind. And just rest in that state, in a state of clear awareness. Nothing else to do, nowhere else to go. You can just stay rooted in this awareness for the rest of the evening and on into tomorrow. You top yourself up, remind yourself of the lesson there. These thoughts do not mean anything. to help you let go of whatever thoughts are troubling you, clear your mind to the truth, the spacious awareness that is truth of who you really are. And so now on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around, practice the lesson one more time. As you look around, say these thoughts do not mean anything. They're like the things that I think I see in this room. So the same order of false reality. Nothing I see means anything. And so these thoughts about the things I think I see, because that's normally what your thoughts are about, don't mean anything either. It's all false. Let's make that connection, the internal, the external aspects of reality. It's just telling us, teaching us, it's all an illusion. Therefore, none of it means anything. Notice as you look, scan the world, and remind yourself, notice the peace that comes. Close your eyes. So these thoughts do not mean anything. And just the peace that's there. This is the peace that surpasses all understanding. It's been called. So just stay rooted in that. Set the intention to stay here in this peace for the rest of the evening and on into tomorrow. So it is said, so it is done. And carry on with your evening in this hopefully very calm, peaceful state, corrected state of mind, a miraculous state of mind. So that brings us to the end of meditation and of tonight's session. That's a wrap for today for the Art of Letting Go course. Thank you, everyone. And I will see you tomorrow, just so you know. We're going to start at 10 a.m. tomorrow, UK time, the morning session. I've got some in the afternoon. So that'll be 11 a.m. French time, 12 p.m. South African time. But for Kim, you probably won't be able to join. So Jackie, Elaine, if you can join at 10, then do. And then the evening session will be from 6 p.m. UK time at 7 p.m. French time, 8 p.m. SA time. If you want to join us, we'll have a look at the text again tomorrow evening. Okay, so see you tomorrow morning. Sleep well. Good session, and namaste.
Namaste.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Julian.
Okay. All right, it's been a pleasure. Bye for now.
Bye.